Welcome back, Red Spotters. Happy Halloween. We've reached the end of October. I'm your host today, Alexis Soto, joined by Mr. Peter Martinez. This is Red Spotlight Entertainment, the show that brings you all the latest stories coming out of the world of movies. And today, as a matter of fact, we've got a review for the brand new Edgar Wright film Last Night in Soho, starring Anya Taylor-Joy, Matt Smith, and a whole bunch of other people, Diana Rigg, as well as Mackenzie, I think something Mackenzie. We'll get to her and them at the end of the review, or at the end of the show, as we should say. And we have a collection of news and what we saw this week that I'm sure is going to make for a firecracker of an episode, as we always do here on Red Spotlight number 354. So we usually start off every week with what we saw during the week, which is Peter's favorite segment. And every time that this happens, he's seemingly caught by surprise and he can't seem to recall anything. And again, to reiterate, this does not just pertain to things that we saw, but it also can pertain to practically anything, whether we read, as far as media read, played games, purchases, any conversational pieces that you'd like to bring up. That's what this is about. So I understand that this is a very difficult ask for Peter, so I'll let him announce whether or not he's ready to share anything. But I have quite a bit of things to get to this week. Nothing too traditional in the sense of consuming media, but aside from a couple of things, and you'll see. So actually, the first thing I want to get into was I just finished watching this right before we got on the air, and that is Hocus Pocus, because why not? It's Halloween, right? And you want to have something, exactly, you want to have something that kind of befit this weekend, as a matter of fact, that befits the 'tis the season spirit, as they say. And that movie is such a delight. It's like, and I'm sure we've done a Hocus Pocus audio commentary of some sort. Either, I believe it must have been on the Fantasy Fair podcast, which I believe you and Kyle did, Peter, and I know years ago we talked more about Hocus Pocus. But it is, I would say, quite easily one of the best live action films that has come out of the Walt Disney Company. It's kind of in that special zone that Disney used to make, the kind of special movie they used to make. And also, there are some aspects to the film that are quite unlike Disney. Very not Disney. There's a lot. I mean, I don't want to sound like double toasted here. And maybe their commentary has rubbed off on me. And I just watched their bad movie review of, I believe, the Jason Voorhees one when he's in space, or part of it. That was hilarious. I actually want to watch that one.
Oh, God. But
watching Hocus Pocus, one of the themes that came to mind is, man, a lot of these people are horny. I mean,
it's a horny holiday.
It seems to be that way. And there's a lot of explicit sexual innuendos. Some of the stuff that I just like, whoa, they kind of let this stuff fly. And of course, the fact that there's many references. Part of what's key to the movie is the fact that the main character is a virgin, and that's a big thing in and of itself. So it's a quite curious piece of work that have come out of this, that came out of the studio. But for better, I would say a lot for better. It is a highly entertaining movie. The performances by the Sanderson sisters, Bette Midler, Erica Jessica Parker. I mean, these people, they're larger than life, and they more than carry that movie. They even sprinkle some. The movie is hilarious. Aside from it just being horny, it's hilarious all the way throughout. They're great. They have some nice little musical performances. And also, some surprisingly heartfelt moments. That's a bit uncharacteristic for Disney movies these days. And it actually ends with a little bit of emotion, with Thackeray, dying and going off and finally being with his sister 300 years after. I had not seen this in a couple of years. I think I saw it a couple of years back. So it's just as good as it ever was, as I remember it, and if not even better. So I think it's a great Halloween watch. Peter, do you care for a Hocus Pocus?
thank God we're getting the Disney Plus original
I
sequel.
will not acknowledge that because it's going to be absolute crap.
Hocus Pocus 2.
It's going to be absolute crap, not because there is no potential in a sequel. Maybe there isn't. Although when I finished watching it just now, I forgot that I guess it kind of did tease a potential follow-up. The last scene of the movie, where the book opens up. You know how they do it.
That's not
I don't
tease.
care to see it.
Oh, God.
I don't care to see it, but it was some kind of like...
It's not a tease.
Okay, is a tease the same thing as a being left open-ended?
No.
Okay. So then what would you qualify that last scene where the eye of the book opens?
It's the family movie equivalent of the jump scare horror movie ending. Like, oh, they still might be out there.
And Disney just can't help themselves because Disney Plus, the story never ends.
For a sequel, it just means like, ooh, the evil lingers. You know what I mean?
You mean Hocus Pocus 2? That's what Disney means. That's what Disney always hopes.
And that's gonna suck. It's gonna be the same movie. It's gonna be the same movie, but it's gonna be much worse because it is a film made with the sensibilities of Disney in this particular era and not so much the 90s, which means all of the fun, weirdness, creativity will be sucked out of it. It'll be bland, and that's why it'll be crap. And why is it gonna be bland? Because that's what Disney does. I mean, just look no further than that atrocious Home Alone trailer that came out a few weeks ago. Oh God, that was fucking lame.
That's being too kind. I don't think it was lame. I think it was trash. It was a dumpster fire.
Yeah. I mean, Disney's made it very clear, like, we're never going to make an original film again. Like, everything we do from this point...
And Free Guy doesn't count. They did not greenlight that movie.
They did not make the film.
No.
That's why I hate when people try to claim, like, the original Star Wars films or Disney films. They bought them. They did not make them. That's like buying a painting off a painter and being like, I made this. I own it. Just because you own it doesn't mean you made it. So I'm tired of people fucking saying that shit. But yeah, as far as the original goes, it's fun. It is a holiday classic.
Yeah.
I'm kind of tired of it just because they play it 24/7 on Freeform.
Yeah, but you don't have to see. I don't watch Freeform.
Oh,
do you watch Freeform?
When I'm at work, yeah.
Why?
Because they're playing Halloween movies.
Oh, okay. So you're complaining about having to watch movies at work.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they play it every goddamn day.
Well, at that point, anybody would be tired of it.
Yeah. By the way, and you know how they have like the what's it called on Freeform? They're like, 31 days of Halloween, and the little trailers for the event. This was the first time I saw footage of Alien and their 31 days of Halloween.
Alien, the Ridley Scott movie?
Yeah, well, they own Fox.
So Alien is now a part of 31 Days of Halloween?
It's crazy because I see it in their promotional material, but I haven't caught it, like, them actually playing it. So I don't know if it's a weird fake out, but it's there. They show footage of it in their promotional material for the 31 Days of Halloween. Something
tells me maybe Alien may be a bit too much for the Freeform audience to handle.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Synergy. But no, I really like the original. It's a Halloween classic. You gotta throw it on every year.
1993, we're about to hit sooner or later 2023, which would make it
30 years.
30 years?
Mm-hmm.
God damn. Oh my God.
Why does time surprise you so much?
Because I don't want to die. But
that's what everyone says before they die.
Thank you. Yeah, that's just So reassuring. Thank you so much, as we say that on Hallows Eve. So I also watched Dune again for the second time, this time on HBO Max. Because I didn't have time to watch the whole thing in one sitting, I actually had to like break it up into small 3 parts, into like 3 different chunks of it.
So you finished the Dune miniseries?
Exactly. But I watched it again, and I'm really happy with how our conversation turned out last week. I would have to say the film has aged very well. It has gone even higher in my estimation, and I believe I gave the film very high marks just on a first initial viewing. It's just a great story. And it's a great world, and it's made so much better by the craft that's on display. It really does elevate it. And it also does, on second rewatch, just make you appreciate, no matter how small some of the parts may have been, but all of the performances are just so amazing. I really thought, I guess this is all we're going to see of Oscar Isaac's Leto Atreides, but he was great. I mean, he was giving it his all in the beginning when like there was no call, we do not answer, as he's about to like sign his death certificate. Momoa especially though, he's really, I think, picking some great projects. My man, yeah,
my boy.
I still would have preferred if he had said my man. I cannot believe that he deprived us of that. We really needed to have that.
He said, my Duke.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and Ferguson, I love the love that she's getting on Twitter and the recognition she's getting.
She's
Miss Rebecca Ferguson. Yeah. Some people I saw were complaining that she looked too young to be Timothée Chalamet's mom. And I don't know where that line of thinking comes from. There were, of course, some crazy people who were complaining Zendaya was only in the movie for 7 minutes. Again, we talk about all aspects of film, especially, and also including the what we would consider to be stupid takes. Well, I like to think we cover all sides, and well, there's definitely a side of people that are upset that Zendaya only had, I guess, a couple of minutes in the movie. But I thought it was hilarious, though, that Zendaya was used so much in the marketing, and she was basically the other main person beside Timothy to do the press junkets all the way throughout this movie. And you know what? Good. I'm glad people were tricked. I'm glad they were bamboozled.
Got your asses in the seats, yeah.
Exactly, and that's really all we needed, right? That's all we really needed.
Now, they were, not to be crass, but they're a little blue-balled there. But now the sequel is like, now that thing that you originally came here that you wanted, it's coming in the sequel.
And Zendaya is going to be in all of it.
So you got to come back. Yeah, it's going to be...
Yeah, you got to come back. Before we get into, there's a lot of Dune news that was attached to this, and we'll get into that right now.
Dune. Never mind. Go ahead.
I
was trying to combine the word Dune and news, but I just realized it's impossible.
I appreciate the effort, though. I really do. It's a great fucking film. I think 2021 has been a really good year in movies, and Dune easily shook up my top 5. Speaking of my top 5, I looked at all of them so far, and man, do I love these movies. It's been a really good year for films. Beside all the bitching that we do with some of the films that are not great, there've been some great movies, and I'm already so happy with what I have so far, which is the complete opposite of 2020 when I had nothing.
Which we will do.
Oh, we're still doing that?
Yes, I'm not giving up. The year's not over.
So is this like a filibuster where you refuse to record the best of 2021 until we do the best of 2020?
100%. I will not yield.
So what are you, Jayapal and the Progressives? I think you will yield.
No. I am, not. I'm Ted Cruz.
Oh, okay. So that means you actually have some kind of strength behind you. Okay. So I guess we're going to have to do that one way or the other. It's hilarious how we've just not been able to do that. You'd think that by October.
And the thing is, Kyle's gonna be there for one, and when he wants to, it's very easy for him to show up and do the things he wants to do. But when he doesn't want to, all of a sudden it's impossible. He's got too many things. I'm not buying it anymore. He's gonna be there. It's bullshit. I don't care how much furniture he has to move or how many haircuts he has to get. He's gonna be there.
I bet you though, he probably will be the one to bring up. Wasn't it hilarious that, did you see in the chat a couple of days ago that he was interested in doing something, a project relating to he wanted to do a Dune audio commentary.
Yeah, he did.
But see, it speaks to what you just said. When it's something he wants to do, then all of a sudden it takes priority over everything else.
All of a sudden he's available. He's got the time. He can do it. Yeah, no, not buying it anymore.
I mean, like, he was basically absent on this show for 50 episodes in a row. But the minute a James Bond movie came out, you see how quickly he came back, didn't you?
He showed up. He was in. Didn't have to move anything around. Yeah, no, I'm not buying it anymore. He showed his hand. So yeah, we are doing.
You're gonna force the podcast.
This is me calling in all the chips. Okay, it's happening.
Well, in fairness, you do deserve it. You do show up here week after week.
Yes, it kills me. And
yeah, so you are the resident Dune lover here. How do you? How? I know you proclaimed your love for the movie. I mean, you basically proclaimed your love for the film when it was announced. We all knew it was going to be great because it had Denny involved in it. But how do you feel it's aged on you? You said you saw it when we were discussing it last week. You had mentioned that you had already watched it, I think, twice. You saw it with your father on HBO Max.
Yeah.
How has the movie held up for you a week after you'd seen it first?
I love it. It's one of those movies. I love me, and I've said this before. I love me some long ass films when they're appropriate. This is James Bond,
apparently.
What? That's why I added when they're appropriate. Every movie nowadays thinks they have to be 2.5 hours, and it's like, no, unless you got some epic sprawling ass story that you got to tell, you keep that shit to 90 fucking minutes. All right. You gluttonous pieces of shits. You don't need to be that big. Sorry. I'm talking to the movies themselves, I guess. But with Dune, it's this massive epic tale, sprawling storytelling, and it transports you in ways that few films are capable of doing.
Yeah,
and I love it so much, and I came in already loving the story, right? Because
of course, yeah, and loving the storyteller, Denis Villeneuve.
Yes, it was where everything sort of matched up and hit perfectly. It aligned,
yeah,
and yeah, no, it's still high. Has it gone any higher? I don't know if that's possible. Because like you said, like, oh, you even like it even more upon rewatch. For me, it's like, I don't know. Like, I already had, like, insane levels of expectations, and it basically hit them. So it's like, I don't think it can get any higher. And the only ways in which it didn't hit are, like, book reader nitpicks. Where it's like, you didn't fit a fucking massive ass 600 million page book completely into 2.5 hours. You know, clearly you're not going to do that. So those are my nitpickiest of nitpicks, but everything that's there flows so well. It's so well told. Like, I just love it. I love it so much.
I really wish at some point, I know right now there isn't one, or as far as we are aware of, but an extended cut would be interesting to see with this movie.
That's the only way the movie could get better for me. I think the only way. But the thing is, I'm not going to hold my breath for that happening. because Denny seems like the kind of guy that's just, he does not like. He's one of those people that's like, my movie is what's shown on screen. Fuck any of that director's cut shit. Which, as far as I'm concerned, this is already a miracle that the film exists and it's this fucking good. So I'm you know what, fine. Whatever.
And it ain't the only miracle, I would say, associated with Dune so far. There's been a couple of them from what I've seen. The fact that we're not in complete despair at this moment, I think, is in and of itself a miracle, considering how the film has been received. And speaking of, I have here a tweet from Houston Cawley. He's a really great guy and has a lot of great takes, as far as, film and everything. I believe we've discussed him in the past. We've exchanged some of his videos, Peter, him, and I. Mm-hmm. And he was, I think, he brought up something that I myself was concerned with. I believe I think a lot of people walked away from Blade Runner 2049, just I think being overwhelmed by the dourness of it, or the downbeat nature of it. Mm-hmm. And I was concerned perhaps that would play a part with Dune. And so this is what he said. He said, I was nervous Dune would be emotionless or forcibly grim. But what relieved me was the sheer warmth of the character relationships. It's dark, but there's plenty of levity when it feels right. The difference is that it's never quips that undercut the seriousness of the story.
Yeah. That's big, because so much of storytelling, and I understand it, it's film, like a lot of things, there's trends, right?
Sure, yeah.
So that sort of quippy, like, isn't this crazy what's going on? Oh boy. Like, that trend is very much in right now for blockbusters, in large part thanks to the MCU. Most specifically, I would say the original Avengers. But I really do miss blockbusters where there was real sincerity. They didn't feel the need to like talk down to the audience, where like to constantly remind them like, isn't this stupid, right? Like, isn't this crazy? Like it's like, no, like, yes, it's weird, somewhat silly concepts, but we're playing it fucking straight because the characters take it seriously and we want you to take it seriously. And that's what they do here. And again, like, as far as like big sprawling blockbusters like this, you don't see them like that as much anymore. Not without the quips, but when you say the warmth of the characters, yeah, I agree. Like, that's but it's also very subtle. And it has to be for this kind of story, because so much of the story is just playing it cool, for lack of a better word, by all the characters, because they're in these very precarious political situations. And one wrong move of the chessboard means that they die, which is shown in the film, right? So it's a lot of like the Bene Gesserit training and a lot of that, being a leader and stuff kind of comes with like keeping your emotions in check. So there is emotion, there is warmth to the characters, but it's very subtle. And again, that comes, the way you portray that though is through good acting and good directing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, what stands out as far as like, moments of warmth, I mentioned it last week. I love that scene with Leto and with Paul, when he says, if you don't want to be any of the things that people expect you to be, you'll still be the only thing I ever needed you to be, and that is my son. Yeah. It's a beautiful moment there. Or even just moments that are not necessarily filled with any dialogue, like when Duncan Idaho comes back and then he embraces Paul, and then also, what is Brolin's character's name? What is he?
Fuck.
Anyway, they all embrace and basically a group hug as they welcome Duncan back after being with the Fremen for a couple of weeks. Or when Paul first lands on Arrakis and he goes and hugs his Mentat, played by I would like some names here, please. I don't remember. These names. Oh my God, Peter, is this what it feels like to be you?
Right? Isn't it terrible?
It's awful. It's awful. I can't remember, but I'm sure the people who are listening who had seen the film can understand, or
Stephen
at least
McKinley?
Recall. Yes, Stephen McKinley. That's the one.
Known as Thurfer Hawat.
Yes, yes.
And Josh Brolin was Gurney Halleck.
Mm-hmm. Gurney. Oh, that's right, Gurney. So yeah, there's plenty of moments in there like that. I have a couple of follow-up questions though. I'm not sure. I think we touched on it, but I love if it wasn't caught much for people the first time, the continuous like cutaways to the bull and the horns. As to what you think. You talked about the Leto's own father died through that way, and of course it's yeah. Also, what do you think? I in my initial screening, I assumed it was I feel to kind of draw a bit of commonality, or he was clearly trying to say something with the mouse that I believe Paul encountered once, but he saw it I think once before through the hologram and everything.
I think the mouse
is it supposed to represent him and what he is like right now?
Oh, for sure,
little mouse.
But I think that's
what I took away from it.
To me, it represents hope, right? In this dark, desolate, dead desert, breathes life. This cute little mouse, and Arrakis is very much a trap. It represents death.
It's a trap. I couldn't help myself.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I did.
Don't do it. It represents death for the Atreides, right? And even before they ever set foot on that planet, they kind of all know it. And to me, the way the desert's spoken of, it's the lack of life, it's death. The mouse represents the possibility for survival on Arrakis. And that's the way I kind of saw it.
Johnny Sobcats, I have another tweet here. A quote from Denny of Paul and the journey that he goes through here, in particular when he has to take a life. And he said, "It was important for me that Paul not be triumphant, that he has the burden of taking someone else's life. Paul Atreides is a tremendous warrior, but doesn't enjoy a minute of it. He has the skills to be a warrior, but he doesn't have the soul to be a warrior."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, that's why I felt that fight had more importance than I think people were putting on it.
Yeah. I myself included, when I went back and saw it, I'm like, oh, this is a really big fucking deal here.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It's like it's a moment of shift for him, because even afterward, I think before then, he and Lady Jessica were pretty much like, okay, we need to get some transport to get off here. And then after he emerges from that, battle alive, he basically becomes one of the Fremen. He's welcomed amongst them, but Lady Jessica is still like, okay, we need to get off this planet. But then Paul interjects with, no, I guess my path goes to the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is my place now. This is where it's all going to begin. In a matter of fact way, like, you can tell something just changed there.
Yes, that was a big decision for him. It was a big turning point for him. And I think there's a line, because I watched it with subtitles, which is a big help.
Isn't it? Yeah. Oh, by the way, David had one criticism of Dune, is that he couldn't understand some of the dialogue in the theater anyway. I don't know if he had some sound issues with the theater. I don't think that's what he had in mind, but I think he had to go watch it with subtitles or something.
Yeah, because sometimes they're kind of like whispery, and they speak quickly, and they're sometimes like I knew the words from the book they were saying a lot of the times, so it's like, okay, they're saying this, So I had already connected it in the movie theater, but even I was like, wait, what are they saying? A couple of times. But sometimes, you know, there's like sort of whispers in his head as he's having those visions. And one of the whispers, as he's about to make his decision to kill him or not, it was something along the lines of like, you when you take a life, you lose yours as well, or something like that.
I think when you take a life, it is like taking your own.
Yeah, something like yeah.
How much of that is lifted from the actual text?
1-to-1. It's been a while since I read it, so it'd be difficult to say 1-to-1. But there's so many lines where it's like, yep, I remember those lines. That one.
Here's one that stuck with me. That Matt Neglia from the Next Big Picture account on Twitter shared. And when I read it, I was like, I remember this moment. It's a great fucking line, too. And I'm wondering if this came from Denny or if this came from the text. The mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience. A process that cannot be understood by stopping it. We must move with the flow of the process. We must join in it. We must flow with it. This was one of the potential futures that Paul was looking at from the mentor that he ended up killing.
Yes. I don't remember that in the book.
Either way, it's a great fucking line.
Don't hold me to account for it.
Right.
Because again, it's been such a long... It's a thick fucking book, guys. I can't memorize every fucking line of that. And it's been a while since I've read it. But so much of the book was lines like that, right?
Okay.
A lot of philosophizing in that way. It's so dense. To use a special word. But no, that's a great line too.
Yeah.
Right? It's fantastic. And it's like, yeah, I would agree with it. That's the advice I gave you. Don't fight life, experience it. Old man.
Like right now. Yeah, thank you. You had to add in the old man and it didn't, you piece of shit, but thank you very much. I definitely appreciate that. Not really. Okay. I did alluded to David Francisco, our frequent co-host here, as well as our other members, Alexis Moreno and Kyle Lira. Based on all indication, we all loved it.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Well, I know
it's a big win.
Miss Moreno needed a new cute emo boy to be obsessed with after Star Wars ended. So,
to be in her defense, it's been kind of a dry spell for her since Star Wars ended.
Yeah.
So,
I get
there's
it.
now this. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Now, it's also, I feel, one of the other miracles I mentioned to talk about how it's been doing well. Surprise, surprise, we're living in a world where Legendary, the studio that, produced the movie, as well as WB that distributed, announced Dune Part 2, coming 2023. October 2023.
Yeah. I guess I'm
Victory?
I'm at the point in my life where every year sounds futuristic.
Doesn't it?
Like 2049. But I know if you're in the 1980s, like, well, 2019 was futuristic.
Yeah.
That's when the first Blade Runner was supposed to take place. But yeah, those futuristic years. That's so much fun. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. I bet you Danny already got the script. He's probably been locked and loaded and ready to go for this sequel. He probably had the sequel outlined while making the first one.
Has there been any official statement by him or any of the executives as to the purpose for why this and Part 2 were not filmed back to back? Or is it mainly just WB didn't really have the faith to invest a back to back production schedule?
I would say little to no faith. Which is like, then why make the movie? It's weird. Well, I guess Legendary paid 75% of the film.
Oh, they did. Oh, yes, they did.
So maybe it was on Legendary that was just like, I don't know if I want to.
I don't know if we can afford this right now.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where the thinking came from, because I believe they were also making Godzilla vs. Kong around the same time, and that's a pretty big movie to make.
Yeah. And all of their... See, I feel like Legendary makes such... I don't know. They make such good movies, or at least me-centric movies.
Movies that appeal to very much you.
Yes. But none of them are runaway hits.
Yeah.
And that kind of bums me out, so I understand their apprehension of like, we want to do this, but I don't know. We were all in on Godzilla, and that one fucking bombed. And now we have this Godzilla.
King of the Monsters fucking bomb, that's for sure.
So I get it, but I feel like if you're gonna, especially because this movie was very clearly just one half of a movie, you either have faith in it or you don't, right? You either make it or you don't. I mean, I guess I'm glad it went this route anyway, because they made it. Now we're getting a sequel. I'm very, very excited. Very excited. I wonder if they'll try and move on that Benny Gesserit show in the meantime. Try to make any movement on that.
Yeah. I feel like, well, they need something. They need something. We talked about before that, look, Warner Media, I don't know if that's the name of the company for much longer, once Discovery acquires Warner Brothers, but Discovery needs to make HBO Max a priority and giving them actual funding for big budget shows. HBO, remember, one of the reasons, or one of the, I think, facts that we discovered when we talked about when Discovery, no pun on there, announced that it was going to acquire HBO Max as well as the entirety of Warner Brothers, was the fact that I think they were only given $4 million. That doesn't even sound right, but they weren't given much of a budget to actually produce anything original that would be the scale of an equivalent of The Mandalorian. So they got to get on that. And I think Peacemaker is one of the first ones that's on its way to doing that. So yeah, it's interesting. Other news when it came to Dune. Look, it's a lot of celebrating going around, and obviously for we discussed last week about where it was projected to come in. It came in $41 million ultimately for a domestic debut, which was a lot higher than we had feared would end up being. It was the highest opening for a Denis Villeneuve film, as well it was the highest opening Warner Brothers movie of 2021. Now, of course, considering the fact that every single last one of Warner Brothers pictures this year was given a simultaneous day-and-date release on HBO Max, a big streaming component. Even with that, it was the highest opening film of the year. Now, that is impressive. The numbers did come in through Samba TV. It ended up being around 1.9 million viewers, I think. Now, again, that doesn't sound like a whole bunch, but I know that you have to factor in that, it is a streaming service. It is a paid service. So when I hear numbers like 1.9 million viewers, well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did that, and that was bad. And a lot of shows don't do all that well when they're on TV. TV is a very different thing when you're actually paying to be a part of a service. At least that's the rationale that I am taking into account, which is why the 1.9 is actually pretty great when it comes to a streaming service. And I think it did about, not all the way, but just about as good as Space Jam 2's HBO Max numbers in its initial week. So there we have that. By the first weekend, at least by the first weekend that the domestic numbers were tallied up, it had already crossed over $200 million worldwide. It currently sits at 241. And then here, Brian Herbert tweeted out, "My father's incredible novel Dune is the #1 ebook bestseller on Amazon." So there is that. A lot of success, a lot of great numbers going around. And one more before we analyze, overall this box office that came in for Dune. There was a big component, to this release strategy that kind of made a big impact on how these numbers overall went. And that was how the movie was pushed, with, I believe, IMAX. And IMAX was a big part of this campaign. And the numbers definitely, I think, prove that once they did come out, which I believe was around last Sunday or Monday, right? And it paid off for them. Overall, how are these numbers looking like so far?
They look like it's not a death certificate. That's
and
what
honestly,
it looks like.
That's all we really asked for. That's all we really needed. The second movie is on its way.
And I genuinely think that one's going to make more money.
By the way, it was announced, of course, if you forget, Dune is going to have an exclusive theatrical release one. But this whole thing with HBO Max getting these films as they debut in theaters ends done at the end of the year. Yeah. It's over.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's been fun, but I think it's best for the films, at least, and their viability moving forward.
Yeah.
No, the numbers are good enough. I think that's the best way to put it, good enough.
It really is, yeah.
And when your fear was just like complete and utter fucking annihilation, comparatively good enough it's awesome. It's great. Perfect. I mean, like I said, I'm happy. The sequel's already announced. I see a lot of people that previously maybe checked out the film just because now getting really into it, kind of excited about it, wanting to see the sequel, maybe even checking out the books. And I think by the time the sequel comes around, it's going to be more, how do I put this? It's going to be more audience friendly. It's going to deliver more on what some people didn't get this time that they had hoped to get, especially with sort of Timothy and Zendaya together. So, yeah, I think the second one's going to make even more money, and maybe we'll get that third Dune Messiah, but I don't even know how they'll turn that into a fucking film.
Well, so far that's how Denny envisions it. I mean, he has given comments in the past week that he feels he can translate Messiah into a one movie.
Do you know how crazy the books get after that?
Well, no.
Because Denny himself has said, after Messiah, I don't think they translate to screen. So even he, who dared translate the untranslatable Dune to screen, says the sequels get too fucking weird for me to be able to translate well to screen. So that's...
And that's when you call in J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. The shaky cam as they're running down corridors.
Lens flares all around.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it, and I love this movie, and yeah, very happy with how things have turned out, and very happy to hear that people love it. All right, other stuff that I've been watching, what we saw this week. You got a bunch of other things. I suspect Peter doesn't partake in this, but a particular genre of YouTube videos that I like to consume are reaction channels and reaction videos. Okay. I believe I discussed Blind Wave in the past, and some other channels. Seska Says, I believe I mentioned her before. I love to see people's reactions to to shows that I myself have experienced. The Normies, I think they did this sometime last year. The Normies are a different channel, and I love their stuff. They did a reaction series to The Haunting of Hill House, and it was hilarious for all of the right reasons. But it was also, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay. It's because you were touching the screen a lot, and I'm not sure if that meant bad news.
No. All's good.
Okay. But yeah, to me, the thing about reaction channels that just fascinates me is to see other people's reactions. I love to see it. I love it.
Well, yeah, that's. Can I go on a little mini rant here?
Yes.
This is why I am sympathetic, despite when I say like movies are just movies. Like, shut the fuck up, get over yourself. I am sympathetic to when people really enjoy a film series or enjoy a certain film, and like other people hate it. Right, and people get really defensive about the film and and I'm usually the first one to say it's just a fucking movie, like get a fucking life, shut the fuck up. But on a certain level, I am sympathetic. Still, don't waste your time, going crazy about other, love what you love and let the rest, just slide right off your back. But one of the joys of enjoying film or TV or any of that is sharing it with other people. Like,
yeah,
you enjoy to celebrate the happiness and the just the love you have with this certain piece of art with other people. Like I can say with Dune, right? If I ended up loving Dune, but I was the only one, like, even though I loved it, it sucks, right? On a certain level, because so much of the joy has been seeing other people enjoy
imagine
it too.
Imagine people who act, and look, we've trashed this film to pieces. Mm-hmm. And again, as we always say, you love what you love and do not apologize a single second for that. But imagine what it feels like to be a person that loves The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Like, if that's your favorite Star Wars movie, that must suck. You can't bring that shit up. Because then everyone's like, fuck, for reals? And I'm the one that I fucking hate that film. I think it's the worst Star Wars film ever made. But again, I am sympathetic to that feeling of like, especially with big blockbuster films that are meant to be enjoyed by, massive amounts of people. It's meant to be sort of a communal experience, especially in a movie theater, right? You cheer together, you laugh together. So yeah, I am sympathetic to that. And that's why I don't hate reaction channels. Like, I get it, right? Because it is that feeling of watching someone enjoy something that gives you joy.
Yeah.
Is enjoyable.
It is. And it oftentimes reminds you of like, man, this reminds me of myself when I first experienced this.
Yeah.
And it even can feel anew watching it. Like, I had just watched the whole season again, and then immediately I found the Normies did a whole series on this, and I basically experienced it alongside them again. And it feels as if like you're with them and you're watching like this whole group and you're watching, this media together. And so when they're jumping, I'm jumping. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot there was a jump scare there. I was like, holy shit, that was scary. That was so much fun. But the one that was, I think to me, I'll never forget, man. And you can tell how great of a scare this was. We all know in The Haunting of Hill House, there's this wonderful moment in a car with Theo and with Cheryl, and they're fighting. And then the ghost of Nell just comes up in between them and screams super loud. And then the car stops and they get out and cry and scream or whatever. And I remember when I first saw that, I screamed because I was like, holy shit. My whole body moved. That's how scary it was. I believe Alexis even said that she fell or something when she first saw that moment. But the Normies, there was a combination of loud screams, jumping. I think one person even fell off, I think the couch they were sitting on. It was hilarious.
It is one of the best, non-telegraphed jump scares.
Yeah.
Because
it still gets me.
It so comes out of nowhere, but it makes sense for why it happened.
Mm-hmm.
No, I get that 100%.
Yeah, so I love those stuff. Other reaction channels. Untold Reacts is a relatively new channel. I believe I did mention his channel. I think his name is Harley. And Untold Reacts. I'm particularly proud of which community is actually supporting him, because he started off, I believe, 6 or 7 months ago. And I think it was Marvel reactions like WandaVision, Loki, and then even the Japanese version of Dragon Ball reactions, as well as the original Dragon Ball, I mean, the one from '89. And then also Avatar: The Last Airbender. So the community that actually has been like really supporting his views have been the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. community, because they're so starved for anybody that actually enjoys that kind of content, right? But back on The Last Airbender, though, I actually been catching up with his reactions, and so it's kind of like a quasi thing where like you're watching this person's content, but you're also kind of reviewing the show itself, The Last Airbender. So I caught the last couple episodes of season 2 and the first half of season 3 with him. And it's just like, it just brings you back. It's like, oh my God, this is such a good show. And then also watching his reactions kind of reminds me how it was the first time I saw it. So for example, the first half of season 3, I noticed that he was particularly like, there's a lot of great character stuff going on here, but I'm kind of like, my heart hurts because of what happened with Zuko and Iroh. And I remember when I was watching those new episodes, when they were new, the season 3 episodes, that I was like, man, I just like, Iroh's fucking sitting in jail, and then Zuko has all this. Like, this just feels like shit and wrong, and I'm kind of in a bad mood and everything. And yeah. And then that betrayal, though, at the end of season 2 by Zuko. Oh my God, he was as angry as I was, and it brought me back to all of that. But it also just reminds me, man, this show is so fucking good. Remember last year in 2020, during the height of the basically the barrenness of what this pandemic was, we all did a deep dive into The Last Airbender as a series, in which I think it was the first time, at least for me, in 10 years, and I had gone back and revisited it. So if you want to hear back those conversations in a more in-depth fashion, help yourself. They're right there, waiting for you to hear. But it just reminds you of what an amazing series it is. Similarly, though, for S.H.I.E.L.D., as I mentioned, of course, I have been watching his reactions, and currently he just got to the halfway point of the first season. And, there's a lot of things about the show, but I remember the first time I asked you, I don't remember where we were. I don't even remember what we were talking about per se, but it did struck me something as a bit of an oddity, that you kind of liked the show when everyone else seemed to hate it. And this was at a time when I think season 3 hadn't even aired yet. I think it was just season 1 and season 2. Because we didn't really meet until 2013, 14.
What? For Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah. It was really early on. Yeah, because at that point we weren't even anywhere close to the Ghost Rider stuff. I think. And I just asked you, like, have you seen the show? Like, yeah, you like it. Was like, it's a good show. Yeah, you enjoyed it just fine. But even that level of response was surprising, because you go online and you see all the bad stuff that's been written about it. In particular, the first season and those first episodes. And I watched the show from the first episode when it first aired and all those weeks throughout. And like, on some level, I did understand, of course, that it did kind of meander, and it was pretty much a procedural. I will say I did appreciate that aspect. And I have to think, like, something kept bringing me back to the point where I found just pure enjoyment out of spending time with these people. Meanwhile, the rest of America was like, fucking kill me. This is the worst piece of shit I've ever heard.
Where's
and the
Iron
show
Man?
I know. Where's Captain America? Stop mentioning him and actually bring him in and everything. So that was the dichotomy that was happening. But for me, like, as the weeks went by, my love for the show actually grew and grew and grew. But I think it really first exploded around the episodes where Winter Soldier happened. No duh, obviously. And so he just actually watched a couple of episodes from that first season that I myself just think are great episodes. Remember that episode when they're on a train and they kind of like a non-linear storytelling approach? Where,
yeah. I remember.
It's called On the Nose. The episode's called Tracks. Mm-hmm. But that was for me. That was, I think, one of the early episodes. I'm not going to say that. But that was one of the early episodes where I'm like, you know what? I think they got something special here because this is a great fucking episode. And then that was followed up with, and seeing Harley's reactions to it just reminded me of how great I responded to those episodes. The next one was Tahiti, when we see Coulson go underneath a mountain and he pulls out a Kree alien and he realizes that alien blood that they put in him was actually fucking alien blood. And then, of course, the one he just reacted to was an episode that reminded me of Kyle Lira's reaction when he first saw this one, and it was Turn, Turn, Turn. This was the episode where Hydra reveals itself. Mm. And that reaction, to see Harley on his channel do it was a bunch of screaming. There's a bunch of disappointment. And like he finished, I think, the reaction. He was like, I want to talk about how great this episode was, but I'm just fucking angry. At the betrayal. Like it sounds like me, but I remember when Kyle first saw that episode, he was like as pissed off. I wasn't as pissed off. I was just kind of like, amazed by the quality of that episode. Cause I think at that point, for them to pull out an episode like that was pretty extraordinary. And it was a pretty great crossover. It was the only real, I think, meaningful crossover that they had with the movies of anything, but it definitely paid off. And that was, I think, a real turning point for that show. And it just reminded me of how it was to see that for the first time and how great it was. So the thesis of this is reaction channels are a lot of fun. And it helps me kind of like fall in love with these things that I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to see again just like that. So it's it's a more abbreviated way of reliving these things and actually having to put on and watch the whole 40-minute episode. You get it in little chunks and you still get the effect of it.
So you admit they're not worth rewatching?
I admit the fact that you are full of a bunch of words that seemingly are intended for some purpose more than just being complimentary. That's what I will admit to.
Okay.
So yeah. Also, season 1 was not that bad. I thought it was great. Anyway, and that should discredit my opinion entirely.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, yeah. But, I know, Peter, the only reason you come on here is to see an update on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, I don't. We can skip this.
Because of that, of course, have to provide an update for that.
Everyone hates this. I see it in the fan mail.
It'll be real quick. Nobody actually writes letters these days. Fan mail. Okay. So I know because you're so interested. It turns out, as a matter of fact, that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was number 1 for the 3rd week in a row in Brazil. Isn't that fun? Isn't that great? I know the smile on your face is because of how much your heart is touched at the success of this.
This is my
And I know Alexis and Kyle and David, and Kyle doesn't listen, but I know David and Alexis who do listen are smiling themselves because of how wholesome this news is. So yeah, bring that out. Also, you know what else was number 1 in Brazil? Luca. The most streamed movie, it turns out, on Disney Plus in Brazil. And speaking of, watching abbreviated forms of this content, I hadn't, the channel Cinema Wins. I had not checked out any of their stuff in, honestly, about a year or so. But he just had a new video on Luca.
Oh.
It was basically a nice 20 minutes-ish way of rewatching the movie, or at least a great highlights reel of the movie. And you know what? I don't know if it's been mentioned, but I love that movie.
You know what? I think you might have said something about that.
Yeah?
Maybe.
I don't seem to recall. And if I did, I think I love it even more now. Because it's just like, oh my God, this is such a delightful movie. A delightful movie that is actually just good on some really subtle levels, you know? I think it's like, it is a slice of life movie, but there's something about it that's just really special. And I'm not sure if words can really describe, but in rewatching certain scenes, just the love, the friendship that these two have, like Luca and Bruno. And when they get to the ending of it, it's like the tears really just fall out of there.
I do love gay fish.
It's yes, I do. And so when it reaches that emotional climax, the waterworks, of course, came out, and I'm like, holy shit, I didn't watch this to cry again. And yet I ended up crying again. So, but we talked about this also over the weekend when we saw each other yesterday, as a matter of fact. Feels like it was a couple of days ago. But, you know, in spite of, you know, Luca getting the shaft from Disney and, you know, not being in theaters, it did find its way to being one of the most successful films of the year. Just based on the streaming charts alone. And that includes, obviously, here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my short way of saying I saw Luca again, guys, and it was great.
As long as it's not Agents of Shit.
I'm sorry, what? I couldn't hear you.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is that. Did you particularly care for that channel, Cinema Wins?
Yeah, I think they make really nice videos.
Which have been some of the ones that you've liked from the past? I mean, in general, I do find it enjoyable because it's. Mm-hmm. I think what he's really good at is capturing some smaller details that are actually really worth recognizing. Yeah, and just small touches.
I don't like his older videos because he's genuinely trying to be CinemaSins,
right?
But like for positive things, and I just don't care for that format.
Right.
But his recent videos, it's literally just him like talking about all the minutiae and the details of a film and why he loves them. And it's like that's so nice, you know. This may shock people, but we enjoy positivity here.
I think we're genuinely speaking pretty positive.
Yeah.
Unless it happens to feature things that we're not so. We don't have nice things to say about.
Like
but,
the world.
You know. Basically, yeah. But the Luca one he released was really good. I recommend you guys go out and watch that one. And also watch the movie again because it is pretty great.
It's for free on Disney+.
Yeah, that's for sure. Another video I saw this week was from Mr. Chris Stuckman. He's been making some pretty great content lately. It's more than just reviews. I think it's a great. I think for the first time, because I guess he's now a filmmaker in the more traditional sense now. He has some. He's delving more into doing commentary on the industry, more so along with the reviews. Mm-hmm. And you and I meant. At least gave it a valiant effort, shall we say, to venture out and go see Ridley Scott's film The Last Duel in theaters. But it just turned out that we barely missed it.
We thought about it real hard, yeah.
By about a day. And so I was like, fuck, well, I guess there went that. As you, of course, know, The Last Duel was a bomb, and literally nobody went to go see it. But Chris Stuckman basically did this whole video about how it should not have bombed, that speaks to the quality of film it is and the talent attached to it. The director of movies like Alien and Gladiator, and then of course the actual movie stars, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Adam Driver. And nobody gave a flying fuck about this movie. And then there are a lot of reasons for why that is. Aside from pandemic, I would put the blame entirely at this point on Disney for basically letting it die. Because they didn't give a fuck about this movie. Because they didn't make this movie. If 20th Century Fox made this movie, then it was absorbed by Disney. And so they were left with all these films that they quite frankly didn't give a fuck about. And probably have like contractual obligations to theatrically release these movies. And so they found a week, and you know what? We need to get this out of our sight. So, there, we're dumping you. Now let's move on. Which is pretty stupid, because I'm wondering what it would have looked like if they had announced, okay, well, with these Fox movies, let's try something on Hulu. Let's do a Hulu thing. If you pay the highest version of Hulu without ads, you get to have The Last Duel. You know, giving it the streaming component, because then you could have the appeal. You could say that you're giving it some kind of prestige.
I think they already had contracts
that prevented that from happening.
Yeah, I think those films.
That makes sure. So maybe that wasn't an option. Okay, yeah. Still, releasing this opposite Halloween Kills
killed it.
Yeah.
Evil didn't die tonight, but The Last Duel sure did.
Oh yeah.
But to me, I think it signals just kind of like old Hollywood, kind of just not. It's the turning of the tides, right? It's people they want fucking Venom. They don't want, because like this is the movie that I could see making bank circa 2003 or something. Absolutely. Like that, right? Like this would be one of the biggest
like hits. Gladiator did.
Yeah, it would be one of the biggest hits of the year. Today, like
literally nobody saw it.
Yeah. And
nobody saw it.
Apparently, it's really good. I did want to see it.
More people saw The Green Knight, believe it or not.
Really?
Green Knight. I think Green Knight doubled or tripled the box office that the last duel.
And
did.
That movie was a lullaby.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
ain't that some shit?
Because I don't think it's the actors, I don't think it's the director, I don't think it's any of that, because I feel like House of Gucci is going to make some good money.
But why though? I don't think that has anything to do with Ridley Scott.
That's what I'm saying.
The subject material. Okay.
It's the subject material. These big something like The Last Duel, a hit, right? Circa 2003, early 2000, something like that. 2021? No. Like the movie-going audiences have seen one too many shitty King Arthur remakes, which is actually, I don't know, kind of ironic now that you say that The Green Knight was made more money, but no one fucking knew that it was connected to King Arthur. Because you guys literally saw the fucking movie and didn't know until being told afterwards. Yeah. So apparently the connection wasn't clear enough. But yeah, no, that to me, when I see it bombing this bad, that's what it tells me. That like times have changed.
And it's depressing. And it's depressing because I think I just read that Venom 2 is about to become only the second movie to cross the $200 million point at the domestic box office.
Venom is such an anomaly to me, man. I don't get it.
Venom outperforming Shang-Chi and Black Widow
like
at the domestic box office.
I didn't get it the first time with the first one.
Again, if you liked Venom, good for you.
Yeah.
You know? And genuinely, and honestly, I guess that's a lot of you guys. If you liked Venom, good for you. Judging, or maybe at least in America here. But I don't get it. All due respect, I don't get it.
I'm not even putting anyone down. I just don't get it, right? Like, I understand just the amount of love that this like franchise at this point has is pretty fucking insane. Because you see the first one, right? And it's like, okay, well, I guess, a Venom movie, no matter how shit it looks, people are going to pay money to see it. But then Venom 2, and it's like, did it make more money than the first one?
This is the thing. Venom 2's opening number at the domestic box office was bigger. than Venom.
What the fuck, man?
In a pandemic?
In the pandemic. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to me. I don't know what the thing is with Venom with everyone, specifically these movies, but I guess.
But we've been talking about this. It's just a genuinely depressing parallel, because what are the movies that have been successful in the pandemic era? It's been Venom. It's been Black Widow. It's been Shang-Chi. Are you picking up the theme there? And look at the ones. Now, we are in a moment now where there are other kinds of movies that thankfully have had other means of success, like Dune, like No Time to Die, like Halloween Kills. Good. But still, in every last one of those examples, no matter how positive their numbers were, with Halloween, a horror movie, with James Bond, a spy franchise, with Dune, a sci-fi epic, notice, of course, how that just pales in comparison to the numbers that are made by a run-of-the-mill superhero movie.
Not only that, Marvel film. And remember, when we a while ago when we talked about our fears through the pandemic, this was one of the fears I talked about, where it's like it sort of hastens the death of every other film that isn't Marvel superheroes specifically, because that everything that's hit so far is specific. Venom, I know it's not technically, well, I guess
I don't want to touch. I don't want to go there.
I don't want to touch it. It's connected to Spider-Man. Whether you look at it, Venom is a Spider-Man character. So you have that, and then the two other MCU movies that have come out, and they've all done fairly good money, considering better than everyone else, right? So that tells me everyone's just gonna decide to not really go out much unless it's for Marvel, or at least you're not going to get the big crowds. There's been other things that have made money, right? But nothing compares to Marvel. No. You have the other stuff that will survive, right? Because people love a good horror movie in a movie theater.
Like a slasher movie. Yeah. A Michael Myers movie seemingly will never go out of fashion.
No, slashers will never
go.
No. Because it's fun.
James Bond, for all of the baggage it's had, and it's like, I don't know, 40, 50 year history, it's still kicking and still making money.
Yeah. It's still going. It still works, right? So you'll still have the stuff outside of that will survive and still make money. But the breadwinners, it just seems at this point, not even just comic book movies, specifically Marvel films. And then when it comes to DC, maybe a Batman film when they reboot it every 2 years, right?
So what happened with the Suicide Squad? Because I'm not sure if we ever really were decided on what exactly it was. I think maybe our prevailing theory was that the first film was just so hated and it was so bad that it just, nobody wanted a sequel 5 years later, especially to a movie everybody hated. I think that was the prevailing theory. By the way, Suicide Squad's out on Blu-ray right now. Go buy it, please. Great James Gunn film. So I have to think, though, because of how good it is, it would have done a lot better if it was released this month than if it was in August, right? Because August, I think, because there was the whole Delta variant that was scaring people away that whole month.
For sure, but man, it was so low.
$25 million!
Like, that's nothing.
That's depressing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that went into it. I think everyone that saw
Remember the first movie? The first movie, I think, opened with $153 million.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I it's a perfect storm, I think. Like we said, the name changed, the Suicide Squad, people were confused. People are just kind of burnt out on the DCEU, whatever that means to anyone. Like, there's the reason why people still zombie-like go to see MCU films, you and I included, is because there's this one overarching story, two certain level of quality insurance.
By the way, that level of quality for me is deteriorating lately. I'm just gonna be honest about that.
I agree, but for audiences, that's the way they view it. With the DC, there's no consistency whatsoever.
At all. You go from Aquaman to Birds of Prey, then to then to Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah.
And then I guess if you want to count in the Zack Snyder stuff and then back to the Suicide Squad, the quality is just crazy. It ranges crazily.
This one's a rated R. Like, there's just a handful of factors that go in that I think every time you say it, you knock off some money to the point where you get to 25 million. So I think even if you moved it, I don't know how much that would help. I really don't.
That is the state of film that we're in. Other stuff I want to talk about this week. The Saturn Awards took place over the week, and they awarded some other projects and people that I admire and respect. I think what happened was they didn't have a ceremony last year because of COVID. So a lot of the winners were from 2019, but I think they combined 2019 and 2020 into one long year. I believe that's what happened because most of the winners were from the year 2019. So Mike Flanagan was presented with the Visionary Award. And that's great to see anybody actually recognize Mr. Flanagan's talent. Knives Out won Best Thriller Film and won Best Film Editing and Best Supporting Actress for Ana de Armas. Great triple threat right there. Invisible Man from 2020 won Best Horror Film, and Elizabeth Moss won Best Actress, as she rightfully should have gotten a Best Actress nomination at the Academy Awards. Those cowards.
Cowards.
Kylie Curran, who was Abigail from Dr. Sleep, won Best Young Actor. Glad to see Dr. Sleep win something. And of course, Star Wars The Clone Wars won Best Animated Television Series. Dave Filoni was there to accept. All of those are in the bracket that I would have considered to be good and rightly deserved. But then, of course, there was a mixed bag, and I found myself to be quite bewildered at some of the other winners of the night. For example, The Rise of Skywalker won 5 awards. That included Best Science Fiction Film, Best Director, Best Music, Best Makeup, and Best Special Effects.
All right, so you just proved to me I shouldn't give a shit about these awards, so I don't know why you're bringing them up.
I am bringing them up because, we're actually fair and we cover both sides here.
Oh, fair and balanced, okay.
Right. We do nuance here. They also awarded Joker, which I hate.
Best Film of the Year.
They awarded... Joker was the best comic book movie.
Oh.
They can go fuck themselves. Mulan also won. That was a shit movie, but it won. And of course, The Mandalorian.
What did Mulan win?
I don't care to look it up.
Okay.
It was a film. It won a best something film. I guess best action film or something.
Okay.
So, in short, I'm happy for the people because generally speaking, look, why I bring this up because I feel like Mike Flanagan is somebody who should be awarded more often. And I genuinely think Knives Out, The Invisible Man, and Dr. Sleep are great movies that deserved more recognition than they got. And at least somebody out there gave them something.
They did.
Though I'm not sure how much it means considering who else won that night. Again, The Rise of Skywalker, Mulan, Joker, Mandalorian are all things, quite frankly, that I've made no secret I loathe entirely.
You are a hater.
And you're right there with me, Mr. Martinez. So there is that. What do you have for what we saw this week, Peter?
Oh my God.
Or still nothing? Did you forget that was happening?
I didn't know that was still going on. We're an hour and a half.
It was.
In.
This is what we have. Yes.
You took an hour and a half.
Hey, it's a light news week. Here's this hilarious thing that somebody picked up. where he said, "I can't believe these people exist," and this is really funny. This person, I believe it was a tweet or on Facebook. "I find it very suspicious that COVID seems to only be targeting people who didn't get the ridiculous vaccine. Has anybody else noticed this? Why is the virus only killing those who stand up the government job all of a sudden?"
That is fake. I don't believe. No.
You don't believe that actually happened?
I can't. That's too on the nose.
No. Come on. I buy it. This is completely real. No, this is real.
I can't. I refuse. That's so stupid. No.
I think it's real. I think you really would put it past anybody out there, considering all that we've seen, to say shit like this.
Okay. Oh my god.
Real quick, I do want to say that I found President Trump's statements on Meghan McCain and Colin Powell to be hilarious.
# my president.
Hey, he's made me laugh more than Biden. And I mean, in a serious way. Biden has pissed me off in several ways. Disappointment. Anyway, last thing I have here, and this is actually a big companion piece, conversational piece to what a lot of people are losing their shit over. And that is the fact, oh my god, guys, Eternals! It's the worst Marvel movie ever made! Can you believe that?
Yes.
It is the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score out of all of the MCU films, and just the recent developments in the last 48 hours, what were they? Oh, it went into the rotten territory where, only 59% of critics gave it a positive review. This entire conversation is a reminder of just how widespread stupidity is, and just flat out ignorance, and how certain individuals and personalities place far too much importance on something as trivial as something like Rotten Tomatoes. One of the, I think, malevolent things to have come out of the last 10 years is these, it's a malevolent force at this point, not by intention, but definitely as a byproduct to, the well-being of movie-going as a business, this whole and how general audiences place far too much importance on what they look at Rotten Tomatoes for. A 90% on Rotten Tomatoes apparently is the key, and all that means is just 90% gave it a positive review, as opposed to in this case, which would be something like 59 or 60 or 65%. But it's been a thing that's been a trend that has really risen in the last 10 years, and this whole conversation is just kind of dumb for several reasons. Like, I feel the conversation that should be had as a result of this is, why the hell are a lot of Marvel films that are quite throwaway liked by so many critics in the first place? That's where my mind goes to. But we're not having that conversation. No, the conversation we're having is, what did Eternals do to fuck up so badly that evidently less critics liked it than Thor: The Dark World, which was the previous least liked Marvel movie by critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Ronaldo Transcalso Jr., I think, had the perfect take. It's ridiculous how 65% is seen as a disaster. We've gotten used to 90% ratings for Marvel movies, even though almost all their generic and bland movies didn't deserve such high approval from critics. There you go. But again, this is being lost in the conversation. Peter, how dumb is this conversation to you?
I think it's funny. It's funny because the people that I see that care the most about Rotten Tomato scores and critics' reviews are the people that never stop shouting and won't shut the fuck up about how Rotten Tomatoes and critic scores don't matter. Right? Because, like, I'll be honest, I probably agree more with critic scores than not, right? But, like, it's not something I necessarily look at. It's not something I care about. You
should, again, to make this distinction, 65% or 90%, that's not a score. It is an aggregate of the overall number of critics on this particular website that liked or disliked the movie. Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
Yeah, for sure, right. And I know a lot of people don't get that, but, you know, whatever. But I guess my thing is, like, I constantly see people, like, ignore Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes is bullshit. Critics are bullshit. The audience is what matters. Da, da, da. And it's like the only people I see bring up Rotten Tomatoes are the people that do it in order to try and get in your face and yell at you that, like, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't matter. The only people who care so much about critic scores Rotten Tomatoes are the people that are angry and want to scream and shout that they don't matter. And that's where I'm at with this. That's what I think is so funny, because I don't know. I wasn't looking at the Eternal score. I guess I was just kind of like, ooh, like, this is kind of, I guess it's not doing that great. Oh, well, like, let's see. You know, I'll go see it. But, like, people are losing their, I guess, you know, the fans are losing their minds. Yeah, it's so stupid. But hey, I guess that's what happens when you make a franchise your personality. I guess, you know, these things will matter to you. But it ain't mine, so I think it's funny.
Why do you think with this movie certain critics are just not having it?
I think it's simple. It tries to not be a Marvel movie, so they don't get the Marvel curve.
Now, can you go in more in depth with where you got this from? Because we haven't talked about this, at least in the podcast, yet.
Where did I get that from?
This concept of a Marvel gets graded on a curve by critics.
That's probably some tweet. I don't fucking remember. But I do remember that I agree with it. And it's that I do think that Marvel is graded on a curve by most critics. Because most critics just go into a Marvel movie going like, well, I enjoyed it. And I feel like there's so many films within Marvel's library that if they had no connection to the MCU and didn't, you know, have that MCU intro at the beginning, they wouldn't be as lauded and praised and had its dick sucked as hard. That includes some of the movies that came out this year that have already coming out. So what happens is I think their MCU does get graded on a curve, not intentionally, but I just think a lot of critics go like, well, it's an MCU film, right? It's sort of like, remember when we were talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp? When people are like, oh, well, it's a good palate cleanser after Infinity War. Like, it just has to be pleasant, I guess. And I'm like, that's such a weird fucking way of looking at a film. Like, that's how you look at a TV episode, not a film. But I think that's sort of the way they grade it, whereas Eternals tries to be kind of break the mold and not be tied to the MCU. So I think the sort of MCU grading scale goggles fall off of a lot of reviewers, and they review it just like as if it were a regular ass film. But unfortunately, it's not a regular ass film. It is still an MCU film, so it still is sort of beholden to that form of filmmaking. So it's kind of the worst of both worlds, I think, for reviewers, and that leads to them not particularly caring for it much. At least that's the way I think it's probably happening. Just based off some of the reviews I've read, the negative ones specifically.
Remind me to actually share with you. I know John Campea is a personality we rarely agree on when it comes to film commentary, but there was some things that he was saying that really are, I think, in diametrical opposition to what you and I say about Marvel films, because he basically was saying, like, the opposite of what you and I feel, and that is, where you and I think that, Marvel, I think Matt Goldberg from Collider, interestingly enough, had this take. Marvel dresses up their movies, and something they hope makes you feel like you're watching something different, but underneath it all, it's the same movie. It's the same like structure to it. And Campea seemed to have the opposite approach to it. With like, no, Marvel, they're part of a universe, but they make very different movies.
He's wrong.
Aesthetically, sure. Structurally,
not even aesthetically.
No. I mean, the environment. Some of them are in space. Bare to bone stuff like that. Not like anything that's momentous or like that recognizable.
Because I was, when I thought aesthetically, like I'm thinking like color palette.
No,
the way it's shot.
No. I was not referring at all to
the way
cinematography.
It's edited.
No,
the cinematography. Like all of that is.
That's not at all. No.
It's the fucking same.
Yeah, it all is. Unless you're dealing with a gun or something. I just went to the Rotten Tomatoes page of all of their quote-unquote scores for, how many percent of critics liked it. One of the lowest rated Marvel movies on there, more than 80%. Captain America: The First Avenger.
You know why?
Why?
The MCU curve hadn't been established yet. I think
also it's a great movie, and it should be a lot higher if you want to go by these standards. I think it's one of their best movies they've made
easily.
By far. I think top 5. But okay, but you know what's rated higher? Ant-Man. Ant-Man. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Wow, Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Really? Oh, but it was such a palate cleanser.
87% of critics gave that a positive review. Ant-Man and the Wasp. One of the worst Marvel movies. It's a piece of shit.
It sucked. That was the first time where I got nothing out of a Marvel film. Like I
got annoyance.
Yeah, like when it ended, I was like, God damn, like nothing. Like what a waste of time.
And Shang-Chi, as you alluded to earlier, 92%.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing ever.
Evidently so. Oh, and Black Panther is the highest rated Marvel movie. That also, I can't get behind.
Yeah, okay. I can't either. Sorry. It's a really average film. Yeah.
So I guess so about these Eternals reactions, how do you feel now that we've had a whole week since the last podcast? Because I kind of feel bad. I feel terrible because I had hopes that this would be one to break the mold in a good way, and we could actually have a Marvel movie that a Marvel Studios film that's a film, not an episode of the long-standing TV show first and foremost, but something that they made that I can walk away just loving and gushing about and appreciating it. And I guess that's just not going to happen ever again, is it? Unless it's made by James Gunn or Taika Waititi.
It seems that way, right? This seems like it was a big swing, but unfortunately, unlike James and Taika, it was a swing and a miss. That's what it
feels a lot like, and I hate the fact that this happened to another woman, because we need more female filmmakers helming big projects like this. But it kind of reminds me of the disaster that was 1984, Wonder Woman by Patty Jenkins. Yeah. And I hope it's not that level of bad, but
I don't think
some people's I can't imagine it is, but some people's reactions, and again, the reactions to this movie range radically. Some hate it, some love it, and then some don't care. It's been a while since we've had a movie like this, though, that has like the whole gamut range of reactions here.
No, I agree. I'm gonna be very interested when we see it.
We're gonna go see it this week. But I kind of like, my hope is I want to love it. I want to like one of these movies again. And if I don't, I'm like,
you'll die.
I'm kind of done with you guys. Like, you can't do anything. And you know what also is, like, I can already see this narrative. Of course, Miss Grace Randolph herself will be one of the ones that's propping it up, which is all of the things wrong are Chloe Zhao, but we cannot dare criticize Kevin Feige or his formula. Because one of the things that has been weirdly, I mean, not weirdly, but it's just flat out weird with some of these reactions, was some are saying, most are saying it doesn't feel at all like a Marvel movie. Again, going back to this thing I just talked to you about with Campia and his whole thing. But then some others are like, what are you talking about? This is the same Marvel movie we've seen all the time. It's still the same structure. So, which is it?
Honestly, man, I bet you anything, it still feels like a Marvel movie. Because the people that are like, oh, it doesn't even feel like a Marvel movie, are also the people like Campia that genuinely believe that all these movies are like Marvel movies are radically different, when they're the same basic film with the most bare bones like drapings. It's like, I don't know. It's like getting a fucking quintuplets and giving them all different colored bows in their hair and being like, well, they're so different. Look at them. Do you not see this one wears a red bow and the other one wears a purple? How can you say they look the same? That's what it feels like. And then now this one is one of the quintuplets, but they're not wearing any bow. And they're like, oh, revolutionary. Brilliant. Very, well, not brilliant, obviously. But just like, oh, it looks so different. Which, no, not really. I mean, visually, it kind of looks different. It could still be the most different Marvel movie and still feel completely like Marvel. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm keeping a very open mind. Because like you, I want to love it as well.
I know lately it's all been like, we've been crapping on this. I mean, we've been highly critical of Marvel lately, and of course, to say nothing of like how we all know, for us anyway, No Way Home is not. It's just going to be annoying. But I want to reiterate something that may be getting lost when we're criticizing Marvel quite heavily. I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So does Peter.
Yeah.
I have like 7 Marvel posters behind me.
I own the
I'm a fanboy.
I own the
Infinity
box
Collection, the Gauntlet. No, the first phase
Shield 1
box?
and Phase 2 with the replica Guardians thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, we clearly love this shit. Clearly.
So, there is that. I guess you have nothing then to speak of, any comic books you've read or saw?
No, I've been far too busy.
Okay. Well, let's get into some news. Dear God.
Oh, we're barely into fucking news.
We have nothing for news. Okay. I mean, some of the news, some of the news we covered already with Dune and other like. So it was a light week. So Pixar has a movie coming out, and annoyingly enough, this of course warrants the theatrical release. But apparently, Luca and Soul could not. They didn't reach that. They didn't reach that threshold. Pixar this week unveiled the first trailer for its upcoming film Lightyear. And I can't explain to you what this is about. Why, in a way that's not going to get you confused. I'm going to let Peter try and explain what this was. I only just saw this minutes before starting.
It's about Buzz Lightyear. No, not the toy. The real person. Whatever that means. His origin story. So, it's Toy Story Origins Buzz Lightyear. it's a spaceman movie, but it's Buzz Lightyear.
But not really. Like, this feels like
it's not the Buzz Lightyear that you know and love.
It's just, I just can't get like. Part of me didn't watch this trailer for the longest time because a lot of the images that were, being spread around film Twitter made me want to throw up in my mouth. Like I told you, every fiber of my being just told me, this looks wrong. This feels wrong. What is this really? And it's like I'm looking at an imposter. Like, why are you dressed like Buzz Lightyear? It's like you killed him and you skinned him and now you're wearing it. And but I don't know, what void are you? It reminds me of how I guess it's the same character in continuity, but it's Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano.
No.
But there, at least I get it. At least I know what that means. Here, it's like Rosario Dawson's playing Ahsoka Tano, but it's not the Ahsoka Tano we know.
But that's different
anyway,
because it's supposed to be the Ahsoka Tano that you know. It's supposed to be the same character, right? But this is supposed to be... It's like if they did a Batman movie, but not the Batman movie that you know. The real Batman that inspired the character Batman. But there is no real Batman. So
this is just weird. This is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
This is why I told you this was kind of the jumping the shark moment for me, for all of fucking Hollywood, because it's just like I don't know what this is. I don't know how to absorb it. It's not just cannibalizing itself. It's I don't know. And then you saw it's futuristic, but it's not like 50s, 60s sci-fi futuristic. It's like modern day sleek futuristic, which doesn't fit with Buzz Lightyear. But I guess that doesn't matter because it's not actually Buzz Lightyear.
No.
I don't know. It looks like it had more in common with Top Gun than anything else. Like, it just looks like, oh yeah,
The Martian.
He's the young cadet astronaut trying to make it, trying to graduate, and become a member
that
of
Infinity
Star
and
Command.
Beyond thing at the end of the trailer. Kill me.
Oh my god, the nostalgia bait again. It's such a weird nostalgia. That's another reason why it reminded me of the new Ghostbusters Afterlife, where they're hitting
the trailer, because we haven't seen the film.
We haven't seen the film yet, but the trailer hits the nostalgia so hard, and it's just like, this film wasn't like this. It's such a weird thing to have nostalgia about. It's the same thing here. It's like, oh my god, there's the suit. There's the Buzz Lightyear suit. And it's like, yeah, okay, all the reverence, and then oh my god, they're gonna say it. They're gonna say the catchphrase to infinity and oh, they cut off because they know you know it. They know you know the catchphrase. It's so weird. And I talk about this, it's one of my favorite comedies growing up was Talladega Nights. It's just if you make a super serious, driving, racing film, and it's shot seriously, and then they're showing all kinds of his old car, the fucking Wonder Bread car, and it's all supposed to be this reverence, nostalgic, oh my god, yes. And it's this is not what this was at all. What this is so weird. And it's the same with Buzz Lightyear. I guess it's just called Lightyear. I don't know what this movie is, and every version I can create in my head sucks, and doesn't need to exist. Yeah.
I wonder how Tim Allen feels right now.
Right? Yeah, because like I said, if this was supposed to be live action, I could get it. But this is kind of a slap in the face, I would say, to Tim Allen.
And I guess a lot of people don't feel bad about that because people don't like Tim Allen, I guess because he's a conservative.
I guess.
Kind of like how Chris Pratt, but to my knowledge, Tim Allen has never done anything heinous to warrant all the hatred that he's gotten.
I guess being a conservative, I don't know. But again, it's so weird because it's like, okay, with the action figures, the dolls, now you're going to make toys that look like Buzz Lightyear, but they're going to have Chris Evans' voice, I guess.
To me, where my mind is like, how are the character interactions in the parks going to work out? Because now it's not going to be the traditional toy Buzz Lightyear, but now it's the real Buzz Lightyear. This is just weird on top of weird. Like, I don't know. I guess it kind of reminds me of like, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but like, so Cruella de Vil historically has been a meet and greet character at Disneyland. Mm-hmm. But I guess at DCA for the Halloween party, they had the Emma Stone version of Cruella as a meet and greet character.
All your favorite characters are going to be replaced by the shitty remake versions. Like Maleficent. She's never going to have her green skin again. That's green skin erasure. I'm calling it out.
I will say the animation.
I shut the fuck up.
No, the animation's good.
It is, but I'm so tired of hearing that.
It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. I think though, when I see Lightyear, like when you say it looks too sleek, it feels too sleek because it only helps to reinforce the idea that this is not at all what inspired Buzz Lightyear.
No, it's not even close. It is clearly not the same thing. Again, that old cartoon, fuck yeah.
The Buzz Lightyear, what was it called? Buzz Lightyear?
Star Command?
Star Command, the animated series. I believe it was on the Disney Channel, right?
Yeah.
First, it was a direct-to-DVD movie, and which, as you said, did a better job of like, because all the toys huddle around Andy's room and like, hey, Buzz, let's watch the movie that, you were created from.
Yeah.
That already exists.
Like, this same premise already exists, and it makes more sense. Because back then, all toys basically came from kids' Saturday morning cartoons. We talked about this, right? The Transformers, G.I. Joe, the whole shebang. And I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I remember the movie was not bad, and neither was the show. It was like on its own. It's like, yeah, this absolutely feels like the Saturday morning cartoon.
And that was a different version of Buzz Lightyear, but that one worked and it made sense, I guess.
It had Tim Allen's voice, and it was
only in that movie.
Yeah,
only in the series it was Patrick Warburton. Hilariously enough,
that's funny. But it's like, yes, I can make the connection. This feels like the toy. Like this is the character that then came the toy. With this, it's like it's weird. Like I don't. It feels like the gritty reboot. Right?
Fuck that.
It's like trying to say that it feels like the Michael Bay Transformer film, right? Like the gritty live action reboot, but it's not even live action. It's still animated. I don't know. It's a puzzle to me that I don't care to solve.
That being said, we'll be there opening night, right?
Fuck you. I'll have malaria.
You mean COVID?
No, I'm all vaxxed up, baby.
Did you get your third shot?
No.
Are you going to get your third shot?
My third shot was getting COVID, okay?
But the 6 month the 6 month immunity has already gone away. You should get your booster. I got my booster.
They recommended a booster for the immune compromised.
No, they authorized it for everybody.
They authorized it.
It ain't exclusively for everybody. I chose. Okay, sure. Let's say what you said has merit. Okay, I get. I'll field you that point. But I went ahead and chose to get the extra protection. I feel most of us should. Now, that being said, I did feel like shit the next day.
Yeah, that's what you get.
Not because I'm not sure that I meant it in the way you did. By the way, did you see that Grace Randolph review of Eternals?
It was very funny. I enjoyed it.
Can you explain real quick what that was? Is it even possible to explain what that was?
I cannot.
To people who didn't watch it.
I just recommend go watch it. It's a good review.
I was befuddled. Timothy Chalamet roasted Joe Manchin on Instagram. Did you see that? He had this graphic that he put out there comparing Senator Joe Manchin. Corporate conservative Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, to give his actual full title there. Or I should probably call him Majority Leader Joe Manchin or President Joe Manchin.
I think he prefers Mr. President, yeah.
Or Senator Brian Schatz from Hawaii actually put it hilariously earlier this year when he passed him in the halls of Congress and referred to him as Your Majesty. Joe Manchin was compared to the Baron.
Baron Harkonnen.
Baron... Is it Harkonnen or Harkonnen?
Harkonnen.
I thought it was Harkonnen.
Sorry, I always said Harkonnen. But I guess it's Harkonnen. Do you know what his first name is?
No. Sheev?
Vladimir.
Oh yeah, Vladimir Harkonnen. That's Palpatine, Sheev Palpatine. Vladimir Harkonnen, who was played by Stellan Skarsgård in Dune. And I feel the comparison's quite apt because of, President Joe Manchin has profited quite a bit these last couple of weeks doing the bidding of the drug and oil companies, especially, watering down a human infrastructure bill quite successfully. So, and that probably does great work to kill the planet. So I feel the comparison was pretty apt. How do you feel, Mr. Martinez?
I like Timothy.
Isn't he great?
I think he's a good chap. And you know when I really liked him? When I found out he was American. Or at the very least not British. 'Cause every goddamn actor in every fucking movie is British.
Why are you so xenophobic toward the Brits, Mr.
We need
Martinez?
to build a wall. Trump was right about the wall. He was just wrong about where to put it, okay? All I'm saying is...
Don't worry. The wall's going to be built once he gets put back into office in 2024.
All right, go fuck yourself. We'll be dead by then. You look at his bone structure. You look at his name, Timothy? Charlemagne? Or Timothy. Like, I'm like, he's got to be in English. He's one of those actors where, they see him on screen and it's like, I did not want to do this. And then they go behind the scenes, and they have their fucking British accent going. But no, he's not British. So I endorse him completely.
Doesn't it always feel like a betrayal when you see an actor you really like, and then you find out he has a British accent?
Oh my God. It's like a reverse Tea Party. It stings.
No, Timothy is great. He was pictured recently. He was seen in public with Larry David of all people. And I'm wondering, does that mean they're planning an episode for him to guest star in a future season of Curb Your Enthusiasm? Because that would be hilarious.
That would be great. I can see that.
Curb Your Enthusiasm season 11, by the way, has started airing this past week. So for those who have HBO Max, go out and watch that. I saw the trailer for that and it looked hilarious, of course. Larry David's amazing. That show just... I'm not sure it ever will lose its luster.
If it hasn't at this point, I mean, how can it?
It's just a barrel of laughs. Like, honestly, maybe one of the most consistent comedies ever?
Yeah. And I think I've said this before. I think what helps it is that it relies on the times. Yes. And the times don't stop changing. So there's always fresh material.
One of the comments I did see on the trailer for season 11, somebody noted how the cast keeps aging, but except Larry just looks the same. Larry looked the same as he did as the first episode back in 2000 when the show first debuted, 20 years ago.
That's crazy. He does look the same. Oh, wow. That's funny.
I guess that's a benefit to aging early.
Yeah, I would say.
So go out and watch that. And then the last thing is good news. Ana de Armas is currently in talks to lead a spin-off for the John Wick franchise called Ballerina. Not that I care about this particular project or this franchise. I think the John Wick films are quite good. But I'm just happy to see Ana de Armas' star rising considerably. And I feel like she was really much bolstered by her amazing action sequences in No Time to Die.
Oh, yeah. She's great, obviously. And just, I don't know, just giving her an action film, I'm like, yeah. Yeah. I'm here.
I'm here for it. I'm here for her. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's all I got. Shall we talk about Soho?
Finally.
Last night in Soho.
All right, here we go. Last week.
Aren't you having a good time? We had some great conversational pieces, I think.
Last week in Soho.
Last night.
Yes. We saw it last night. Directed by Edgar Wright. When the past lets you in, the truth will come out. A young girl passionate about fashion design is mysteriously able to enter the 1960s where she encounters her idol, a dazzling wannabe singer. But 1960s London is not what it seems, and time seems to be falling apart with shady consequences. Cast is Thomasin McKenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy, Matt Smith, Michael Ahawu, Diana Rigg, and others. And, directed, produced, written, Edgar Wright.
I want to say real quick, Terrence Stamp, who played, his character is actually credited here as the silver-haired gentleman. He is, you've seen several times throughout the movie here. I thought I recognized him, but I couldn't quite place him. Terrence Stamp actually played the butler in the 2003 Haunted Mansion movie.
That's where you pulled him from. Oh, man. Legendary actor Terrence Stamp. And you're like, oh, yes, he is the butler.
Exactly.
In the Adam Sandler comedy Haunted.
Well, of course, the same can go with Diana Rigg, but all I really know her from is one episode of Doctor Who. I never saw on Her Majesty's Secret Service, but I guess there's that. But of course, mainly from Game of Thrones as Lady Olenna Tyrell.
I think that's okay, because she gave a fucking killer performance in that show.
She should have gotten an Emmy.
Yeah.
For that show.
For sure, yeah.
Absolutely. Matt Smith, of course, from Doctor Who. It's hard to believe that man's almost 40 years old. He's looked the same since he was 25.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Anya Taylor-Joy, of course, dazzling as ever. Did you recognize Thomasin McKenzie, our lead here?
Yes.
I didn't at first until I looked it up that she was in Jojo Rabbit. She was Elsa.
Yes.
From Jojo Rabbit.
She was the evil Jewish girl.
Elsa from Jojo Rabbit.
Yes.
Let's not refer to her as that, though.
Okay.
Because I'm going to get some people on our ass there. Also, there is a girl in this movie called Jocasta. First things first, she's a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
Just the first takeaway, she's a fucking bitch. One of the worst people I've seen in a movie in quite some time. But one of the things that actually that left me with her character is her name. Do you know, it reminds me of that Star Wars character, that obscure Star Wars character, Jocasta Nu, the librarian.
Yes, Jocasta Nu. That's what I thought too. What pathetic nerds we are.
I know. Yeah. I guess the first thing to start off with this is our history with Edgar Wright.
Yeah. I love Edgar Wright. He's one of the greatest working directors out there. I watched his Cornetto trilogy as a kid growing up. His greatest film, his magnum opus that me and Julio adore is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Correction.
Huh.
You, Julio,
Kyle,
Alexis, Kyle,
everyone
and the rest of the world.
except the person I'm currently talking to who thinks it's fucking terrible.
Well, not even a person if I don't like Scott Pilgrim.
I would not consider you one, no. But I guess I don't make the laws. But if I could, yeah, you would be beneath. You'd be like right under dogs, I think.
Where would I fall on the line of cats, though? Would I still be above cats?
Well, cats are above dogs. So you would
okay.
You would be below them as well.
Now that's a hot take.
It's a very hot take. They don't like it, but it's true. It's fine. Cats are complex creatures. They deserve their level in that hierarchy. So yeah, I love the Cornetto trilogy. I love Scott Pilgrim versus the World, one of my favorite films of all time. I really like Baby Driver. I'm not in love with it as a lot of other people, but I really like it. So yeah, like I am a big time fan of Edgar Wright. So, and this was pitched as Edgar Wright getting into horror. So as you can imagine, someone like myself, like that's a hell of a sell.
I mean, it has not gone unnoticed that you, Mr. Martinez, are a connoisseur of horror films.
Yes, I like to watch people die. So, I went in with much excitement and a lot of interest. So that's kind of my history. Yours is, you hate his films. Go ahead.
Did you also see The World's End?
I did.
Is that part of the Cornetto trilogy?
It is. It's the third and final of the Cornetto trilogy.
Okay. Because I don't really know the Cornetto trilogy. The only one I know is Hot Fuzz.
Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then The World's End.
Okay. So I've seen Hot Fuzz. And I don't remember the movie at all.
Wow.
I think I liked it okay. But it made no impact whatsoever. And that's just me being honest. Okay. Baby Driver. I liked.
You loved.
It was fun. No, I liked.
Kevin Spacey.
Maybe in the moment I loved, but it's a good movie. Baby Driver's a good movie. So there's that. And then there's Scott Pilgrim, which is kind of an anomaly to me. At the same time, I recognize its artistic grit, and how it refused to be confined, artistically speaking, by any kind of boundaries, and how relentless it is. And I can definitely understand the appeal.
Just say you hate it. It's fine.
All of these things I'm saying are true.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm being honest here. I'm giving the movie its due. All that being said, it never once resonated with me on any emotional level whatsoever. It.
Oh God.
I do not like that movie.
The Death of
and
Hope.
And I think it was pretty clear I wasn't going to like it. But then again, Kyle still made me watch it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we did that table episode, and there that was. Yeah. And I was kind of excited for this movie, honestly, because it's a horror movie, and it's with the cast and Edgar Wright, and, like, he's a good filmmaker. I acknowledge that. But I guess I was reminded after walking out of this movie, oh, yeah, I really kind of don't care about this director.
Yeah. I I've said that from the beginning, and you still attack me for saying the truth.
I'm not attacking you. I'm just like, I'm pushing back on the notion that I just like dismiss him entirely or don't understand like what the appeal of him is. And look, I remember enjoying Hot Fuzz. I don't remember at all. It made no impact. Baby Driver I liked, but again, I don't think about that movie, and I don't get Scott Pilgrim. I don't share the love that most people have with Edgar Wright. And yeah.
All right. Okay. I see how it is. Fuck you, but to each his own. Saying that walking out, you were reminded how much you don't care about this director. That I guess that probably gives me insight into how you felt about the film. Am I correct?
Yes, but I don't think it would be as harsh as I think you would think it would be. If you'd like, I can get into how I felt right now.
By all means.
Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Last Night in Soho, at times, is great. And I was having a great time watching it. But it also, I don't know, somewhere along the way, I don't know what happened, but there was a series of events that kind of made the movie kind of get away from itself/me. And then it ended up in a place where it's like, okay, cool. I've seen, I guess, this more than any other Edgar Wright film get some pretty mixed reactions.
Yes.
When I say seen, I'm not necessarily looking at the content. I'm just like acknowledging the fact that they were mixed, but I haven't really gone so much into like what the reasons were all, with this movie, but I've noticed that this one has gotten more of a mixed reaction than any other of his movies. I myself don't really know at this point because I just haven't. That's the thing. I haven't thought about this movie. It was one of those things where I walked out like, okay, that was something. All right. But it just hasn't occupied my mind since. It's just been pushed out. And usually...
Isn't that bad?
That happens with movies that just don't make that much of an impression. Like, oh, okay. All right. I saw it. All right. I guess we're moving on beside it. I didn't hate my time watching it. I enjoyed it. But it kind of reminded me of like how his other movies made me feel, where it's like, oh, like Baby Driver. Although with Baby Driver, I was on a high with that movie for a pretty good while. And yeah, the performances are great. The cinematography, he knows how to direct the hell out of a movie, that's for sure. It's a great fucking cast. It's some needle drops and some fashion that's reminiscent of Cruella. As you said. And you know what? There are some genuine funny moments in this. I'm not sure if they were intended to be funny, but there were some genuinely funny moments all the way throughout. And you and I having the theater to ourselves, I think we were able to make the most out of that. But I don't think I ended up really connecting so much with the movie as much as I hoped it would be. But overall, I would say I have a good time, but I haven't really been thinking about it since. I don't know if that makes things any clear about where I stand on this so far.
You hated it, I understand.
Oh my god! I didn't say I hated it.
I can read between the lines.
I just said I didn't hate my time. I just didn't care much for it. But I guess that's par for the course with me.
I'm reading you like a book. It's okay. I understand. You hated it. Okay. Good. Great. Got it. Check. All right. I love Edgar Wright. I do. But I haven't loved his recent films as much as I have loved his original films. Like, I love the Cornetto trilogy. Like I said, I love Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. But I liked Baby Driver. I wasn't crazy about Baby Driver the way everyone else was. I was like, this is good. I like it. Not in love with it. I would say similarly to this film as well. maybe even to a lesser degree. Where I like Baby Driver more than this one. Which maybe isn't great, because this film is built within a lab for me to like.
It's got your girl, Anya Taylor-Joy.
It's got Anya Taylor-Joy. And a very much a leading role. And she is great in it. And there's so much good stuff with her. Yeah, I feel like, especially looking at Baby Driver 2, I feel like if you look at his original films, I think those original films that he made, his original 4, I guess, had rock fucking solid scripts. Like, really, really good scripts. And then he's a fantastic director, so he already took a good script and elevated it further. I feel like his recent scripts have been lacking. But he's been able to mostly make up for it by being a fantastic director. Like, I don't think Baby Driver... Are you there? We talked about this.
I'm listening intently. I apologize.
You need to breathe. You need to do something. Ugh. Blink, goddammit. Creepy motherfucker. His last couple of scripts have been, for a lack of a better word, I feel kind of simple. Like, I never really connected that much with the main character of Baby in Baby Driver. His whole thing was like, he's a good guy. He's the goodest guy that ever good guyed. He's this the most handsome looking model guy who's just the goodest good guy, and he's a good guy. Like, that's it. That's his whole fucking character. Same with his love interest and a lot of the side characters. Like, there's just not much beyond that. It's rather simple. And I think that's what you also have here, but there's also some rough areas of the script as well. Like, a lot of the characters are rather simple and don't have much to them, plus the script is a little rough in certain areas. But again, Edgar Wright, such a fantastic director, he's able to take that and elevate it. But when you look at his original films and what he can do with a great script, I just kind of want him to go back to getting a great script. Yeah, I liked the film. There's a lot of great things, and I feel like I'm gonna mirror what most people are saying about this film. I think the beginning of the film is easily the best part of the film. Yeah. You're getting to know the characters. It's pretty funny as she's getting to deal with London. I think there's a clear sort of theme established pretty early on, concerning sort of women and how do I put this? The way women can be preyed on.
Right.
And that's very much explored.
Particularly women in this movie that are going for something big.
Yes.
So, like, with Eloise, our main character, she wants to be this big fashion designer. And then with Anya Taylor-Joy, she played Sandy, and she wanted to be this big superstar.
Yes.
And it seemed as if, like, both of these women were preyed because of their ambitions.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe not because of, but they were... Yeah, no, I guess that's they were taking advantage of.
Sure. Right.
And viewed as less than human, really. All that stuff in the beginning works so well. Like the dream sequences when we first see Anya Taylor-Joy, as we go to the 60s, and all the editing to like the way that Mackenzie's in the mirrors, and then when they're dancing and they're going back and forth. So good. All that's so good.
It is.
It establishes a certain level of mystery to it. And you genuinely like both characters, right? And what I found interesting was I genuinely enjoyed the bond, even though it's kind of a one-way bond. But the bond between these two girls, the way Mackenzie really looks up to Sandy, and you know, she sees her as this fearless go-getter. She has a dream and she's gonna run for it. Sort of this idealized version of herself. And I was like, it's cute, you know, it's heartwarming and all of that. And until it isn't, until you see the dark side, so to speak, of London. This is also very British because London's talked about as this big fucking thing. Yeah. You know, I'm American. I don't fucking know. You know, London, okay. So all of that works really well. And you don't really hit the horror, quote unquote, horror aspects until about the middle half. And even then I'm like, oh, this is good. I'm liking this. It's working. But a little bit past there,
there's a turn, you know?
It kind of gets muddled. I feel like it kind of doesn't know what to do. I feel like there's a twist ending for the sake of there being a twist ending. I feel like it doesn't work completely. And I'll be honest, I don't think he handles the horror aspects too great.
I thought it was just me that felt particularly that way. I was, because I've been looking at a lot of horror lately, and there was something about it here that, there are ghosts that we see throughout the movie. And I feel like if I was watching Flanagan or Wan do something like this, it would have been handled in a way where I think the intent was for this to be like horrifying. Like this is supposed to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
And maybe it is in certain moments, but there is the way, I don't know if it's because of how they're shot or because of how the ghosts themselves are designed to look like. But it kind of felt at best I want to say it felt whatever. At worst, it kind of came off like a comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that was the point.
It wasn't done well. And it almost feels like as a director, he's just not suited for this genre, right? It's like if Christopher Nolan made a comedy.
It's called Tenet. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, like that. You can just picture.
Can you? Right? Like it would be awkward because Christopher Nolan is a fantastic director, but his sensibilities just don't suit comedy. And I think the same goes for Edgar Wright. It's too flashy. It's too clean. It's too bright. And the ghosts don't feel scary or even that atmospheric.
They didn't feel right. They didn't feel scary at all.
It felt more goosebumps than anything. But when you align that with the subject material, which was like these were literally the men that like raped Sandy, and it's like it feels weird. Like it doesn't. I feel like tonally it doesn't fit to be this stylized. It feels like if the ghosts from Ghostbusters were fucking rapists, but we're supposed to take them seriously and be scared. Like, I don't know. It doesn't work completely. At first I thought they were cool, right? They were used kind of sparingly, and I'm like, okay, like, it's not scary, but it's like, ooh, ghosts, okay.
But as the movie goes on, the more and more they're used, and the more and more you see this isn't working.
They're shown way too much.
Yeah.
It feels like the second act, it's just scene after scene of, like, just keep throwing them at the wall, and the more and more it just comes like, okay, like, they're... And maybe that's because of the turn that happens at the end, but I'm also not crazy about that turn.
Let's talk about that real quick without getting into the spoiler thing. In the moment, I thought it was a cool twist.
Yeah.
Having thought about it, I'm not sure what the point of it was. I'm not sure what he was trying to say with that. And therefore, if it didn't add anything, why is it there?
This is what I mean. Like, the first half of the movie, the film is clearly saying a very specific thing, but it's doing it really well. And I'm with it. And there's heartbreaking moments, and my heart breaks there too when you see it. And like, everything that's going on, I'm with it. But then you get to the second act, and it's like they throw too much ghosts, and it felt like, we'll at least change it up with the horror and the scares. But it was just the same thing. Like, woo, we're back, evil ghost men. The most terrifying thing in the world, a man. And then you have that sort of twist at the end, and that really left me going like, okay, why? What are you trying to say? It almost felt like there was a twist because they felt there had to be one. But there didn't have to be one. Like, you could have played it a lot more straight, and I think it would have worked better. It just muddled things, and it made me...
It did.
Leave going like, I don't know what the point of this quite is now. I don't know what you were going for. Especially because then, like, the relationship between the two girls ends very differently. And yeah, I would need to get into spoilers to really get into it.
We'll get there in a bit. Good aspects of the movie. Thomasin McKenzie. She's great.
Wonderful, yeah.
Anya Taylor-Joy. Matt Smith is Matt Smith. And this is also the final performance by Miss Diana Rigg.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. But a hell of a way to go out, though.
I think she did it. She did a really good job.
Yeah. It's a prominent role, as a matter of fact. You're not expecting it, at least.
Yeah.
But Edgar Wright did dedicate the film to her. And it's sad, because she was actually a great actor, and seeing her and how, like, great she is in this makes me sad that she still could have given some more great roles if she had lived.
Yeah, for sure. For Diana.
So I guess with that, I guess the general impression is it's kind of uneven, the movie. And it ends in a place where you're decidedly in a mixed place. Because there was a lot of great stuff that worked in the beginning, and by the time it's over, you're kind of not sure why you were here to begin with.
That's what makes me feel so weird about the film. Because the first half contains enough amazing things for me to love it, right? Like, if any other film had this level of amazing things in it, I would have...
it got me from the beginning.
I would love the film. I would adore it.
Mm-hmm.
But then it keeps going. And then there's this other stuff that kind of makes me leave the film going, I don't know. It's...
Yeah.
It really muddles it, and it makes me... Overall, I still really enjoy the film. I think it's expertly made, of course, because Edgar Wright is a fantastic director. But as a whole, it's not very hard for me to say, like, yeah, this is probably my least favorite of his films.
Shall we get into spoilers?
We shall.
So Eloise, it's never really explained. Not that it needed to, but I guess off the bat she's introduced as kind of like Theo, except without the touching from The Haunting of Hill House, where she just has like this inherent connection to memories.
Yeah, Sixth Sense.
Right. So that was interesting.
I like how they just say it's very nonchalant, like, oh yeah, like she can talk to ghosts.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think maybe she's the character that I like the most out of all of here, because I genuinely felt for her because all the crap that she went through. Like she is very much portrayed as this like country mouse.
Yeah.
It goes off to the big city.
Mm-hmm.
And then she finds herself kind of in this culture shock, and like this was like her big chance and everything, and she has the unfortunate circumstance of like meeting some horrid people led by Jocasta the New, or Jocasta the bitch, we should say. God damn! Like off the bat, I mean, I felt that like, oh no, this you need to get away from here. Like, and like this is like a weird tangent, but like, what kind of ratchet piece of shit do you have to be? Like, how inconsiderate? Now, granted, humans by their nature seem to be largely inconsiderate. Take the pandemic, as a great example. But what kind of trash do you have to be to just like bring over a hookup date to where your dorm mate is just like lying there, like a few feet away?
You're going with that? I feel like that's the least of the shit she did. My favorite was when
your favorite
my favorite bitch moment from Jocasta. I think we all have our favorites, right? Was when what's her name, Mackenzie, was saying about how like, yeah, her mom committed suicide, and Jocasta was basically the one that put out there that her mom died, and then she had to tell them that it was through suicide. And then Jocasta saw the sympathy she was getting and quickly decided to be like, well, you know, my uncle committed suicide. Like, just like fucking, it was a competition of the suicides just so she can steal back some of that sympathy. And I'm like, holy shit. I think at that point I laughed.
No, yeah.
Because I was like, oh my God.
You're that kind of bitch.
Yeah. But that's what I mean with a lot of the characters. I feel are very one note, like,
because she was consistently a bitch. Like she would do nothing but bitch things
to the very end.
Yeah, to the bitter end. Like even and seemingly for no good reason, just because.
And I know there's some people out there that are just bitches.
That's true.
But I feel like a more well-rounded film would maybe give you some dimension to her, but no, she's just bitch. And then all the girls that hang around her, it's literally like mean girl stereotype to a T, right? And then you have the nice guy whose defining trait is he is the nice guy.
Yeah, talk about one note. I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah.
Michael Ajo played John, who seemingly has
John or Jesus Christ.
Well, John,
he was so nice.
He seemingly has no reason to exist except to be nice and to have a thing for Eloise. But I think, man, I couldn't have agreed more. What you said again, because we had the theater to ourselves, so we had the leisure of just like speaking aloud as we were. I guess the main consensus overall is like that poor guy.
Like, by the time we got to the end of the film, I was like, dude, like, I was like, this, like, run away. You don't need this. You're better than this. She does not deserve you. Because the whole movie, Mackenzie treats him like shit, right? Like,
kind of, yeah. Like she just dismisses him, like, repeatedly.
She's so dismissive of him. And like, he's constantly chasing after her, and then she's like, great, you're here. I need help with this. And it's like, how about you ask him how his day was? You know, just anything. Have you asked any personal questions about him? Because from what I saw, the movie's not interested in him. The movie's not interested. Every information about him and his personal life, he had to offer up to you.
He said they were friends. We never saw them. No, he said that he had friends off screen somewhere.
They were there.
Yeah.
You just didn't see them. They were right outside the camera. So yeah, and like, he's cool, right? And I like the actor. But like I said, it's just so one note. Like, it's literally just, he's the nice guy.
He also just, but to a fault.
To a fault, to the point where you're like,
because he felt like a fake person. Like, nobody's that nice. Like, because like, he felt like overly considerate.
No one's,
again, because like he's just like, because again, like, the movie has no interest in like telling us more about him, but he seemingly has no interest in his own
fucking life.
Right. It's all about like Eloise and everything. Like, remember, there was a point in the movie where like he's talking about like, we got to study for this big test. That immediately was dropped to go on this wild goose chase.
And like, we're not in spoilers yet, right?
Yeah, we are now.
Okay.
Yeah.
After that whole thing where like, she almost got him fucking killed. When they were gonna,
which time?
Right? When they were gonna hook up at her apartment, and then she starts to freak out, and he's like, "Yo, like, what's wrong?" And like, what's her name comes in, like, she's gonna call the police, and like, come on now, like, how young white girl screaming bloody death to a young black guy in the room. We know how that scenario ends, okay? Especially when cops start to get involved.
It ends with John being walking out of that building in a body bag.
Yeah,
that's how it ends. Like, so
I
again,
mean,
like this,
it basically did at the end. It almost did.
But that's an example of a scene where it's like, it's more than just an example of like how, you know, badly he was treated. Although it is weird how Eloise just kind of let him run out of there without even saying much of anything. That's one thing.
Well, she didn't want to call the cops.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, sorry, Eloise. Yeah, no. Yeah, like she.
Yeah,
but also the next day, like, she says nothing to him.
I know.
And if it doesn't matter how nice he was, if he felt like a human being, he would have walked up to her to like, what the fuck is going on with you? Like, he might have tried to say it in a nice way, but he's like, listen, like, I really like you. Like, I think you're so cool and shit. But like, you need help. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
so again, I don't think for people who didn't see what we're talking about in this particular instance, that sequence, I think, is a perfect example of like how, because that was supposed to be a horrific scene, but I think I was laughing the whole time. And I'm not thinking I was meant to be laughing. So again, like, John and Eloise are about to hook up, and then in that particular room, and if it hasn't already been stated, Eloise, again, she has these supernatural abilities. In that room while she's asleep, and sometimes not even when she's asleep, she's seeing into the past. Mm-hmm. And these ghosts of the past are literally tormenting her. And so as they're hooking up, the ghosts appear, and I think she's, for the first time, she feels what she believes to be the murder of Sandy, the girl that she's kind of assumed a connection with through her trips to these memories of the past. And while she and John are on the bed, she then feels Matt Smith and Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays Sandy, on the bed, and the vision that she sees is Sandy being murdered by Matt Smith, and she feels those blades in her, and then she's screaming, to the
she's screaming bloody murder.
She's screaming bloody murder, and John's there like, what? What's wrong? Just like that, and then of course Diana Rigg walks in, busts the door down.
He crashes into the fucking mirror, and he's bleeding out.
No, he is. He's bleeding out, and then he's kicked out by Diana Rigg.
This poor guy. No, but yeah, like throughout the movie, I really do feel the characters, like her supportive grandma is her supportive grandma. I don't know. Like, even like Eloise, that's her name, right? Ellie, and she's like, I'm Ellie, because they all call her Eloise, and she's like, I go by Ellie. I can't do her fucking voice. She has like a small, tiny voice. I felt like, okay, like especially when she started to change, right? And she tried to emulate her idol, which was at that moment Sandy.
Oh, by the way, if it has been mentioned, she's incredibly into the 60s.
Yes. Oh my god. It was just so much better.
That's a side thing. We'll get to that. But
so much better.
She dresses. Her whole thing is like she dresses. She makes her own clothes out of the 60s, and she only listens to music from the 60s.
Yes.
On vinyl, I should say.
A movie?
And yes, this takes place in the movie 2021.
A movie director being obsessed with the 60s? Never. But yeah, I wanted to see more growth out of her, right? And I thought you were seeing that, right? Because comparatively when she starts to get like her, but then it hits a moment where she's just kind of like in crazy girl territory, and she's like that for a lot of the movie.
Yeah,
where she,
almost to an annoying degree, which isn't good.
And then I guess by the end she kind of becomes her full self. But I don't know. Like I felt like there needed to be more there.
Yeah, the writing definitely failed that department,
especially because I felt like there's supposed to be connection between the two of them, like Ellie and Sandy,
and Ellie,
and sort of the ways in which they're being held back. But I don't think Ellie was being held back in the same way, right? Because
not even in the slightest.
Because Sandy is very much about like these men controlling her and you see glimpses of that in the beginning, right? Where like the cab driver that scared her and stuff like that. But I felt like there needed to be more direct, a much more direct influence on that currently. Maybe it's like a male, like the male teacher, right? Is a skis ball, and he's sort of like, have you ever seen Legally Blonde?
No, amazingly enough, no.
The whole thing is like, she's like this girly girl, like, look at me, like, and she goes to Harvard to study law, and everyone's like, what? Like, she wears pink all the time, but she's really good. She works hard and she does a good job. And then she finally starts to get recognition from her teacher, but the teacher kind of like tries to hit on her, and it's kind of implied the only reason he let her do so well in the class is because he was interested in her. But and then she starts to doubt her own talents because of that. Like, is it just because, these men want to take advantage of me? They look at me and they just see my looks. They don't say anything else. I think you needed a little bit of that with the Ellie story, right? To sort of complement the different times and the way they're being.
Yeah, because there really isn't much of any growth as a character.
Like the connection, you know what I mean? And sort of that's why her journey through everything with Sandy, by the time we get to the end, you see the way that influences her through her own struggles, right? Mm-hmm. And you do get that. I just don't think it's direct enough. Her issues were really like she had bitchy roommates. Like, let's be real, that was her biggest issue.
Yeah,
and she got rid of that issue day one. If she had gone to a different flat, she probably would have. I
love how you just used a British term.
They said flat in the movie. Fuck you.
We call them apartments, but you just called it flat like that, and I was like, huh, interesting. It's rubbed off.
I'm not 100% American. One time, and you use it against
says the British xenophobe.
Yes. But like, if she had ended up getting a different apartment, like, guess. She probably would have been fine. Like, she has the talent. She would have done well in class. Mm-hmm. She would have been able to hook up with what's his name without killing him, the nice dude. Like, that, I think that still would have blossomed and grown from there. She would have done good in class. Like, she would have been okay. Like there wasn't this obstacle in front of her that only going through this journey could she have like changed as a person in order to confront it, right? Whereas if I think she had like that male douchebag teacher in class that's kind of like holding her back and telling her like, you know, I'm the reason you will succeed, right? And like, I think that would have worked better. So going through that experience really gives her sort of the transformation to tell him, get fucked. I'm gonna succeed, and it ain't gonna be because of you. I think that's one way to decide to fix it. You want to talk about the twist?
Well,
or is there other? Go ahead.
No, I think like. You going through all this, I feel exactly the same. It's like, yeah, I felt these things. With I just can't get over how funny it was. Some there are weird moments that they're not meant to be funny, and of course these are problems. So there's a scene in the library where, you know, Ellie is seeing all these ghosts, and she pulls out this knife and
scissors.
She basically almost scissors. I'm sorry, and she basically almost like stabs Jocasta in the face. She shouldn't have stopped herself.
Oh my god! See, that's the thing, though. You made Jocasta too bitchy. I wanted to see her die at that point.
Yeah, we should have got on Michael Myers on this situation.
That would have been the best moment of the film. Well,
but it didn't go down that way.
What's weird is that was attempted murder. Right?
But it wasn't.
No. From on
paper,
to everyone looking, which they establish a lot of people saw, that was attempted murder. And we have established Jocasta is not the kind of person that would let that slide. Like, she literally would have killed her if Super Nice Dude had not grabbed her hand at the last fucking second. And it feels weird because for sure she would have pressed charges, right? Like, she would have told the whole school, and really the whole school saw, right? Because they established earlier everyone there was studying for the big test, like the whole class. The whole class saw her try to murder her. But they never come back to it. Like, at the end of the movie, she's just like, oh, good job. And it's like, I don't know about you, but if like I was in class and some motherfucker ran at me with scissors and was inches from taking my life, that's not like a few months later, I'm not going to be like, oh, good luck on the test. I'm going to be like, put that motherfucker in jail. Like, I don't know. That's so weird.
Well, on top of that, the whole school is basically there. You're right. As this moment happened, Ellie, from our point of view, is shown she's not really trying to kill Jocasta. She's just trying to defend herself from the nightmares that she's having, or these ghosts. But she basically almost ends up offing off Jocasta.
Yes.
On top of all that, what you said, though, there's like a lot of people around and see that, and they just stand there as Ellie just slowly, she doesn't even run, she just slowly just walks out the building.
Yeah.
No one was like, I guess everybody around her was like, yeah, you know what, I get it, Jocasta's a bitch. And I guess maybe that was the intent right there, that everybody just understood and nobody cared. Because that's what it felt like.
Maybe.
Like she just walked out the building. She walked out the building.
But I feel like she was running to get security. Like they very much made sure they established that she's the kind of person that would not let this go.
I don't think she's seen again after that, is she?
Yes, she is.
She is in the end of the movie?
Yes, remember when she does the whole like the catwalk show, the fashion show? And
she's in that scene?
And then she goes backstage and all the other like students are like clapping, saying good job. She's one of the people that like kind of gives a sarcastic like good job. And I'm like, no, you guys have gone. She tried to murder you. Like, that's why I said, like, if someone tried to murder me and then 6 months later, I'm not going to be like, good job on the test.
I'm not going to be there.
I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be like, I'm going to bring the cops to the school and be like, this bitch tried to kill me. Like, I don't know. It's a, because they don't set her up to be the kind of person with seemingly the wealth and power and determination to destroy her enemies, and she very much views Ellie as her enemies, and then have a scene where everyone sees her almost try to kill her and then not address it. Like, it's weird to me. She would press charges.
Yeah.
She would make sure she went to jail.
But that's just dropped entirely. But I mean, if you want to get into like the legal like ramifications of all that stuff, how do you think they explain the whole John getting stabbed at the end of and the place being burned down?
I assume they tell them that the fucking old lady did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to. She's dead anyway. What are you gonna do?
Okay, let me backtrack real quick. I love this visual, man. So this is okay. Well, immediately after we go from the library, we see Allie confront the old guy that she's convinced is old Matt Smith.
Yes,
and he plays that character as it's supposed to be old Matt Smith until it's not. And here's the thing. I shouldn't be laughing, but so like literally, I like it, you could not have been more obvious. I feel like the whole point of this, at least on the surface, was that yes, clearly he's the old version of Matt Smith, but then it ended up being, we find out that's not what happened after the character is unceremoniously and kind of hilariously just offed off with, you know,
she
a
killed
card.
Someone.
That's the thing. It wasn't just attempted murder with Jocasta. She literally ended up killing somebody immediately after the fact. And it wasn't even Matt Smith. It was a cop.
It's insanely fucked up, right? And the movie's just kind of plays it off like, oh, like they only care about the revelation that like that's not actually Matt Smith.
Right.
But in my mind, I'm like,
because she just walks away.
She walks away.
She just walks away.
Because that part of the movie is over now. But to me, it's like, this is a big deal.
That just makes me laugh, though. It just makes me laugh because, like, damn, the film could not give a fuck for 2 seconds. We're just moving on.
No.
Like, the character was just there to die. And, okay, I guess...
But you don't think this character would be at all emotionally affected by the fact that she just fucking killed a guy?
She doesn't even care that she almost killed Jocasta. No. She just all the time she walks away, and I feel like the movie doesn't even care. And then we go from, by the way, it was kind of, I don't know why, but yeah, that was all unintentionally funny. But then we cut to an even funnier visual where this is assumingly hours after the whole library incident happened. And then we just cut to John in the middle of the night running and screaming Ellie's name. And presumably he's been doing that for hours.
He's just chasing a police car.
And I was like, what the fuck? It feels cartoonish. I'm sorry to say, but it's like, yeah. So that and all of those things literally happen one after the other.
Yeah. Again, this is that point of the movie where things start to get muddled and fall apart for me, and I'm like, okay, why are we here? Like, what's...
It becomes a comedy, really.
And this is where I mean, where it feels like his sensibilities just don't work. Like, I heard he wants his next film to be a musical. I think Edward Wright would make the best fucking musical ever. He'd make a kick-ass musical film. Horror? Clearly, no.
This didn't work as a horror movie.
And it feels like it needs to stick to tropes, but then it kind of breaks it. Like the whole thing of like her vision of seeing what's her name dead, right?
Sandy
died.
Yeah,
and it turns out
because that's all she cares about in this movie. Apparently, is some person that she thinks was dead a long time ago. Yes. But she can't be bothered to think about any of the people that are damaged, are almost killed, or actually killed because of her.
You think that you might have a scene where she's like, this is fucking up my life. Like, I just need to move out. Like, I can't. But no, like, she never takes a second to stop and think about that.
That poor old man.
He didn't do shit. He was a cop. He apparently helped the prostitutes. Oh, God. But what happened? Oh, the twist is, and I just need to say it just to get out of the way, because there's other things I need to say. Sandy killed all the men. Sandy's alive. Sandy is the old lady landlord of hers that rented her the room, and the ghosts of men are the men that she killed, including Jack, her pimp, and she hit him in the walls, and that's what's going on. Let me tell you why I don't like the setup to that. Because you deliberately show the audience that she's dead. You show us in that flashback that she died. And then she was brutally murdered. And then your response, so of course we're not thinking that she's alive because you showed us that she isn't. So to me, when it turns out, well, she is alive, like, that's not a good twist, right? Like if I spend the whole movie telling you this person, and I explicitly show you this person is dead, like, and then the twist is actually what we showed you was a lie. How is it? I don't know. It's just a lie. It's alive. What a twist. Like, that's not a twist. That's not a good, to me, that's not good setup. Good setup is when you can go back and go like, oh, wow, like, look at the clues. Like, you can really understand. It makes sense and it adds up to her being alive. But this one doesn't add up because you go for the very obvious in-your-face fake out, which isn't a fake out. It's just deliberately lying. Like, it's not clever. To me, it's not clever. If you explicitly show me that she's dead, it's not clever for you then to go, But no, actually, she isn't. How?
Well, it really isn't when the whole thing comes to an end and you're kind of figuring out, okay, but what did we gain by having Sandy become an old lady and she's alive? What was there to be gained by that? If anything, the movie kind of suffered because of that choice.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I would have liked the traditional ending. I would have liked it, what's his name? To actually have been Matt Smith.
Yeah.
And he knows that she's on.
At least that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, he knows that she's on to him, so he runs to her flat to try and kill her, or follows her to the flat. And the ghost of, what's her name? Sandy helps save her life.
Right. It felt like we were heading toward that ending.
I would have...
And then, at some point, we just take a turn off somewhere else.
But it feels like... And I know this is funny coming from someone who's a big fan of Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi, but it feels like a twist for the sake of there being a twist. That's what it feels like to me. Whereas, like, the more traditional ending would have worked. Because the very traditional beginning of the film was really good. And I think it was very clear and well done, the themes and ideas of what the film was going for. And I think if they would have continued that, again, with, like I said, with the more obvious, maybe more traditional ending, it would have come together very neatly, very nicely, and I think I would have walked away enjoying it so much more. Whereas here, like we keep saying, it became a weird mess. Like, I don't know what the movie was going for. I guess it's still going for the same thing. Because, like...
But it's worse than that. Not only do I not know what it's going for, but whatever it's doing, it's making me laugh, but I know it's not supposed to make me laugh.
Yeah. Well, it's like when she revealed that she was the one that killed all the men, I think at some level it's supposed to be like horrific. But if you're an audience member, your thought is like, oh yeah, you go, girl. Like, yeah, for sure. Like, you killed him. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then it goes to like, well, now she's going to kill Ellie. It's like, well, wait, what the fuck?
Yes. That didn't track for me.
Yeah.
Because, okay, the people she kills, the movie goes on the side is these people deserved it because these were disgusting old men that were basically having sex with a child, you know, age difference wise and everything, and raping her even in some instances. And so at that point, Sandy killing these people, you understand it and you're sympathetic toward that. But when she makes a decision to then kill Ellie, why?
And I get it. It's like, well, I don't want anyone to find out. But no one knew. You told Ellie everything.
Also, I don't think Ellie was going to say anything.
For sure, I don't think Ellie was going to say anything, but she didn't know. In fact, she came there to leave, right? Like, she's like, I got to leave. London, I need to go home. But also, like, the police weren't going to find...
The police weren't going to do anything. By the way, that whole scene with the police was a waste of time.
Yeah.
What that did, I don't know. I feel like what realistically would have happened, she would not have been allowed to leave the building. Mm-hmm. She would have been, like, institutionalized or something.
But also, there's also a scene where it's like men never believing women, right? Like, he's making fun of her and shit like that. But she's saying some crazy shit too, right? Like it's not a shitty man.
Who would believe it?
Right. It's a...
Evidently John does. I mean, on the surface, hilariously. Like, he never questions it. He's like, okay, what do we do?
That poor guy. But yeah, I can kind of see what they're going for in the fact that, like, what happened to her turned her into a monster, kind of. Because at the end, when she lets them go, she's like, I'm not a monster. Where she's kind of shocked about what she's turned into. And she decides to stay and die in the room, right?
Yeah.
I can kind of see that. But it's so muddled because then
it happened so quickly for that. I mean, I guess that's what the intent was, but that scene's also just, I mean, muddled, I think, is one word for it, but it's also all over the place because I guess when she sees the actual ghosts of all the people that she killed, then she all of a sudden is stopped in her tracks, and then but it all happened so fast too, and the visual is also kind of goofy with all the ghosts just standing there like, oh, you caught us. Like, what?
And it feels like, up until that point, it really feels like the movie is saying, actually, the men were the real victims. Right?
Wasn't that weird?
Doesn't it feel like that? Especially when they're like, help us.
Why would I help you?
And I know she says like no, but the way the way they turned Sandy to be so sinister, and then have it go from, oh no, these men ghosts aren't trying to attack Ellie, they're just asking for her help. Like it really makes it feel like the movie's trying to say that they're the real victims in this scenario. But I don't think that's what the movie's saying. But it's so muddled that it doesn't work. It just doesn't work what it's trying to do.
And then the place burns down.
And then it burns down with all the
And then they live happily ever after.
Downtown. Like all that stuff was so good though. Like all the 60s stuff visually, all the singing. You know me, I'm not one for much for singing. But
no, you hate music, notoriously speaking.
That is not true.
You said you don't understand you don't get the appeal of concerts. You don't get the appeal of like going to a You don't understand what's so special about seeing music performed.
If concerts were so awesome, then people wouldn't need to drink and do hard drugs to enjoy them.
I have gone to plenty of concerts where I didn't partake in any of that, and I enjoyed them just fine because the people I saw were amazing.
Because you are a fuddy-duddy.
By the way, what was that whole thing? Oh, are you okay? What happened?
I accidentally hit the mic. It's fine.
Oh shit. Okay. What was Edgar Wright trying to say about the 60s and nostalgia and everything?
See, that's another thing. If he had brought it home, I really feel like I would have loved the film, because I feel like it's kind of an FU to nostalgia. Like, sort of the idea of nostalgia as a whole. But it's weird because it's so concentrated specifically on both the 1960s and London. Right? Because if he had been talking about nostalgia as a whole, and the way that we sort of put blinders to the past, and how that's a bad thing. Like when I'm with that, and by the way, it felt like he was doing that in the first half, but it just felt. What made it kind of weird is how specific it was to London itself and the 1960s itself, right? Like if it had just been old music, not literally the 1960s, I'd be like, okay. And if it had been city life, not literally London itself, I could kind of see it, but the way it's done, it kind of feels like someone pissed in his burrito one time in London and he's just went, fuck this place. That's the way it kind of comes off. But on the whole, again, it's also kind of scattered. But that's another thing where it's like I can dig this, right? This idea of like nostalgia isn't great.
Right, yeah.
But
look no further than the Lightyear trailer.
Yeah, right. So if this had been executed a lot better, I'd be eating that shit up. But as it is now, muddled the word of the night.
Yeah, I was hoping for something really great here. This is, I think, maybe a victim of high expectations. Not that it was trash or bad overall by any means, but it just like this is what's bumming me out is that this is it started out so great, but then it just ends in a place where like there's too many things that are just like dragging it down. And then ultimately, of course, the ending is the last thing you're left with, and the ending is like, what? Okay.
Yeah. I enjoyed the film. I did. Despite all the negatives that we said, there's just too much beautiful craftsmanship going on in it for me not to like it. Too much great performances, all of that. But it just doesn't come together for me to be anything that I genuinely love.
Mm-hmm.
I can just like it.
What do you think? It's an interesting turn this month. We did 4 movies this month. Not named Venom. We did No Time to Die, Halloween Kills, Dune, and now Last Night in Soho. And all of these, to an extent, we were all looking forward to. But it's taken a bit of a turn. It's been kind of a mixed month. I think we had 2 films that we both really liked, in the name of No Time to Die and Dune, and then we had 2 misses, really, at the end of the day, with Soho. Although overall, there are some great things in Soho. Yeah. Halloween Kills, though.
See, the only one I'd go like, that's a hard miss is Halloween Kills.
That's yes.
I don't know if I go so far as to say it's a miss. Maybe
I don't want to say that.
To some extent. But at the end of the day, I still enjoyed it. Whereas with Halloween Kills, it's like, fucking, evil dies tonight, right?
I never asked you, though, at the end of that review, because I was so fucking angry. Do you have an official ranking of your Halloween movies?
Oh, no.
Where would Halloween Kills fall in all the Halloween films?
No,
pretty low?
Pretty damn low.
Really?
Because it's annoying.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's really fucking annoying the way everyone's like, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Everyone talks in fucking trailer lines.
Yeah.
And it gets really grating after a while. Whereas with other Halloween films, even though they're bad, they can be fun, right? Like, Trick or Treat, motherfucker. Like, I can have so much fun with that. Whereas with this, it's like, it gets really fucking annoying after a while. Evil dies tonight. Yeah. I mean, it's nowhere, obviously. It's definitely somewhere around the bottom. I'll tell you that.
It is a pretty massive, like, dip in quality.
Insane dip.
Between Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. Like, that's honestly kind of shocking. The dip in quality. Like, it's hard to believe the same people made both those movies.
Yeah.
It's like, really hard to believe that.
I think it really comes down to there's not much to Halloween.
Real, yeah.
I really think the first one...
But also, Halloween Kills really wasn't Halloween. Like, the slashing bits, sure. Yeah. But all the other commentary...
I felt like they just didn't know what the fuck to do.
No. So, yeah, being Halloween, what are some of your favorite movies to catch up on Halloween?
My favorite movies? Well, Halloween itself, Trick or Treat, Hocus Pocus, and then from there it gets a little pick and choose. You know what I mean? Sure. It's because you don't want Halloween to get stale. You gotta watch a couple of different things. Some years you go gravitate towards these kind of movies or gravitate towards others. Maybe you got a Friday the 13th marathon. Maybe you got something else going. Maybe you look at some more kid-friendly stuff like Monster House. I actually really like Monster House. You seen Monster House?
No.
Oh, no, really? Okay. No. This time I'm actually genuinely surprised that you haven't seen it. But it's actually a really fun, like, Halloween movie. So, yeah. A
lot of the Disney fans gravitate toward Halloween Town.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah. The Nightmare Before Christmas.
That one I never know what to do with.
Why? Because you never know when's the appropriate time to watch it? Is it a Christmas
honestly,
movie or a Halloween
movie? It's a Thanksgiving movie.
It just evens out to a Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah. But yeah, the two movies I think I always make sure to watch are Trick or Treat and Halloween. Like, on the day. That's just going to be playing on the TV somewhere.
I think my go-to horror movie would be The Shining, though.
Oh, okay. See, that's another good one to throw in. Like, because like I say, like, you mix it up every year because you want to.
Right.
But yeah, no, The Shining's a good one.
The Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion movie.
I have fun with that one. I do. Like, that's what I mean, though. Like, you want to throw in some more kid-friendly ones. That's another one that's really fun to throw in.
Or the Goosebump TV series.
Yes, the movie. The movie's fun.
Oh, well, the Fear Street trilogy we talked about earlier this year. Go watch those on Netflix.
Yes. Yeah. Because, and I do think there's a difference between horror films and Halloween films.
That's true. Yeah.
Because I'm not watching fucking Hereditary on Halloween.
No, I'm not watching that or Midsommar. No. There's some horror. There's some category of horror where it's like, you know what? Halloween is supposed to be festive, like Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, it's very festive. Yes.
Yeah. Ari Aster's work? No, thank you. Not for this holiday.
No, fuck that.
No. So thank you all so much for listening. Look, there were a lot of things to catch up on and everything, but I'm very happy with how it all turned out for this month of October. We had a pretty packed month of content to get a hold of. Next month, we've got on the docket, we got Eternals, we got Ghostbusters Afterlife, and we also have Encanto. And Hawkeye comes back for the holidays. David and I will be back to recap that on a weekly basis, so we got a lot of content coming your way. Until then, I want to thank you all very much for listening to us. Have a happy Halloween. Thank you, Peter, for being here week after week and making these podcasts possible. Remind you all to stay here under the spotlight for more content and more and more and more. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.